Working helps.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. I think it's episode 10 today, our special episode of Hash Church 3.0. Let's wait to go live here on YouTube. There we go. Yeah, we're live, guys. Welcome, everyone, for Hash Church 3.0, episode 10, but also the special episode, an episode where we'll be discussing our fallen friend, HOratio, fallen soldier. Kind of sad times too, as Etienne was just mentioning, gathering today for, to celebrate the life of HOratio Delbert, one of our Hash Church alumni. He was great. He always came on church and shared his information and got everyone kind of amped up. And he was always doing things that was different than most of the things everyone else was doing. And that's another thing that I really appreciated about HOratio. So I want to welcome Wade Laughter to the room. Good to see you, buddy.
Good morning. Good morning.
There we go. I hear my voice coming out of someone's computer. Let me make sure this is muted. Yeah, and I also want to welcome Etienne Fontaine, another Hash Church alumni. How are you doing, Etienne?
I'm doing well. Good morning. Much love to everyone. Much love to the spirit and love that was HOratio. Needless to say, his spirit was enduring and changed and made a lot of people excited about what he was doing, and he was helping people. And it's a lot of what we do is just try to do our best to help people and spread love. And it really hit me hard the other day because his birthday came up on my Facebook feed, and that kind of hit because he didn't reach 40. That's it's just humbling all the way around. So it's just a reminder to live, laugh, and love, and hug those that you know and care about, and give them love, and spread love and joy, and do the best you can in these dark times.
And have bong rips. And have bong rips. Well said, Etienne.
And bong rips.
And bong rips. Awesome. Hey, welcome, Colin.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
We're here gathering for a Hash Church episode. I'm always happy to gather with you guys. It's always a good time. It's a little bit of a sad episode today to be celebrating the life of a friend who's passed away, who did some great things in the cannabis industry. And I just thought, even though I hadn't really spoken with HOratio for probably a year or two even, I still felt the need to honor him on the platform, what he shared on the platform, and all the people that he touched. Felt pretty important to do that, be a part of his GoFundMe that raised money thanks to Johnny B. Johnny B really, there he is right there, as I mentioned his name. What a crazy timing that is. He really kind of went above and beyond, as John often does, supporting the family and being there for the family and making sure that I knew about what was going on and some other key people while it was being kept very, very sort of on the low. We are not going to be discussing what happened to HOratio today, so please don't anyone ask what happened to HOratio. We are just going to celebrate the life of HOratio. We don't need to get into the depths of exactly what happened, because a lot of people have been asking that. So I feel blessed, John, for sharing it all with me, and I'm very glad that you've been there to support the family and do everything that you can for them and help with the GoFundMe and all that. So as always, Johnny B, good job, pal. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, brother. Thanks for all the kind words. And I've been there helping the family out totally with everything that they need, and just it's what I could do to help a brother, So
absolutely. I'll join you on that one. And Sam, Skunkman Sam, how are you doing, my friend? Holy Christ.
I'm barely alive, dude. That's why I'm wearing a mask.
Dude, first of all, when you told me that you had COVID, it blew me away, because I think I've known you for like 20 some odd years, and I don't think I've ever known you to be sick ever at all. Like, do you get sick?
I got very slightly ill in Barcelona at the cannabis event.
Yeah, when we almost died. That's what I'm saying. People don't even know that when you say that, that's not a joke. Like, your wife was in the hospital. I've never been sicker in my entire life. And you got a tiny bit sick. And you did it after we left Barcelona. Like, I never even saw you sick.
Yeah, well, to be honest, with COVID, I was sick. I got it from my wife. And then I was sick for 24 hours in bed, sick as a dog. And the next day, it was 85% gone. The next day, 90% gone. And then it was over.
Wow. It really speaks to your immune system, Sam, because that's some next level crazy shit. I mean, you're not a young man, first of all. You're getting up there in age. And that's amazing that you just...
I'm overweight and I'm an old fucking geezer.
Well, I didn't want to go too deep into it, but there you go. Good for you for surviving. Wow, that freaked me out. Yeah, Arian got it as well. I saw Arian was in bed and going through his COVID experience. Crazy. That was just in the chat room.
His experience was, he made it pretty real. It's pretty cool how he kind of went through what his condition was. He started jogging again. He talked about The Rock, what happened with him. And he started really explaining what to do and really getting to the people. Like, hey, when you get it, stay home. Try and build your immune system. We don't even know if that works right now, right? But,
yeah. Well, I'm glad you're okay, Sam, and I hope the wife is going to be okay as well.
I didn't eat for 24 hours. I was in bed for 24 hours. I didn't smoke for 24 hours. It was the first 24 hours I haven't smoked in 50 years.
Holy! So now you know that shit was real. If Sam didn't smoke for 24 hours, that was probably, I'd say, 20 hours longer than he's ever gone without a puff.
Something like that, for sure. But I was in China one time, and I barely smoked at all in China, but I did.
Oh, I can picture you. I know exactly how you did it, too. So I'm not going to go into it in detail, but I can picture it. Hey, welcome to the Dragonfly Earth Medicine. Josh is in the house. How you doing, brother?
Good morning, everyone. Doing well. I got stung by a bee the other day, so I kind of have a little bit of a stung eye. Everything's good.
You got stung by a bee on your face?
Yeah, a wasp just like fucking came out and just directly bit me like right here, right on the eyelid.
I was going to say there's no way a bee bit you. Your vibes are too high for a bee, but a wasp, now that makes sense.
I don't think wasps
I do
bite.
have a lot of wasp friends.
Yeah, you're right. They do sting, but bite, sting, they hurt. And when you get it on your face, I can't even imagine.
We have a lot of bears on the property.
Story of how it happened.
Yeah, there's a lot of bears on the property, and Sky's got these crazy bike jumps out there, and the wasps made a huge nest in his berms. And I came out in the morning, and there was this giant like hole dug out of the berms, and I was like, all these bees flying around. I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna go check this out. And I had my camera with me. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna film this, and I walk up to film it. And they just fucking attacked me. They just came out and went bang right in the eye. Oh shit!
Damn.
I ran around and I was like, well, usually the wasps are really awesome, and you can just be like, hey, I'm here. But when their house gets ripped out of the ground by a bear, they're pissed off. So it's not COVID.
So that's what happened, eh? A bear opened that up.
Yeah, we had a bear, a mama, and 2 cubs in the tree, and I think she dug it out with her 2 cubs.
We got the same thing in Lions Bay right now. They were in my neighbor's yard yesterday. 2 cubs and a mama just cruising around. It's, black bears, no problem. Squamish has had a grizzly bear hanging out for the last month, and they finally were like, yeah, you know what? As cool as we are, we got to get rid of this grizzly bear because this thing's 700 pounds and it can literally eat people out of their cars. So they had to put it in trap it and bring it up north, I suspect, up to the Yalakum Valley or something like that.
That's cool. We've had some grizzlies in our community here recently over the last few years, and recently we've had a couple grizzlies in the community. They act a lot different than the black bears. They're really awesome. They're still cool here. Hey, Mark, what's going on, brother?
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Doc.
Hey.
How's everyone
How
doing?
you feeling today?
Good. Let me get this
Hey, Mark.
adjusted.
How you doing, brother?
Doing good.
Just chilling out, trying to stay uninfected. Glad
And
Sam.
then don't go to Sam's place.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God. Oh my goodness. Well, welcome, Dr. Mark. It was beautiful words that you wrote about HOratio the other day in the Hash Church there. I was quite taken aback by those words. It was, I know we had our own discussion, but it was nice to see. You know, he was I'll never forget the first time I met HOratio through Johnny B. John's always like excited like a kid in a candy store. You know, he's like excited like a kid in a candy store. He's legitimately like, you can't be upset with John because his excitement is that of a small child. He is so excited about whatever it is. Well, he came to me this time and he was like, dude, I met this guy. He's doing extractions with limonene. They're like terpene extractions. I got it right here. You got to try it with me. He's like beyond excited. And I'm kind of like, he gives me some and I kind of put it on my desk and I'm like, yeah, I'm not touching that fucking shady shit. Like I'll just leave it right there. And then time kind of went by and I was kind of like, I was looking at it. I was like, this stuff does kind of look crazy. And it's got that crazy smell. So finally I took a dab of this shit. And it was definitely the early inception of HOratio's, of his extractions. And I'm sure it was Dr. Mark who helped him figure out how to distill out the citrus oils, the 5% citrus oils that show up in a 5-gallon tub of D-limonene. And these are, if you watch The Inner Sanctum with HOratio and I, that's where I did my first solvent extraction. He actually had me pour the limonene through the tube. There you go, Bubba Kush right there. You're on mute, Johnny B. He's got the D-limonene right there.
And this is the number one. So the very first one he made is actually sitting on my desk in my office, and it was with MediCoach, which was pretty cool. And yeah, like you said, Mark, I first met HOratio at Ignite Smoke Shop through Brandon, and in the basement, and they were like, "You got to meet this guy downstairs. He's like just like amazing." And I'm like, "What downstairs?" That's how I met HOratio, was through Brandon, through Ignite Smoke Shop.
And Rihanna.
Yeah. And I went down there and like, this guy's all about research, just like you are, John. You got to go down and talk to this guy. And I went down there and like, hi, I'm John. He's like, I'd be making these extractions. And I'm like, oh, I need to
I think he found me through, I think he found me through Jim Frere. Remember Jim?
Yep.
Marcus?
Yep. He did.
And so Jim and I were on an Adam Dunn show, maybe, I want to say, like right around just before 420 in 2014. And so HOratio had reached out to me, and I don't even think he knew who I was. I mean, I barely used Facebook. Well, I didn't barely use Facebook, but I didn't use it really to reach out sort of to cannabis people. He was one of the first people who sort of reached out to me and just started asking all kinds of questions. And it turned into a relationship where I gave him some background references on how to purify limonene, because he had been getting it from maybe not too reputable sources. And there was really a lot of question around, well, what is this, the intended use for? Because it is used in foods, it's, and derived from citrus, the citrus industry, but it is filled with all kinds of nasty shit in a technical grade. Like they have like an 85% grade and there's 15% other stuff. And this was simultaneous with having the discussions around THCA crystallization, which is, I went back, Marcus, you know what this really did? It was so cool to do this, man. I went back and I listened to every Hash Church up to the Hash Church where I had first signed in. Now, HOratio had been like texting me during Hash Church, like not texting, but sending me Facebook Messenger things on, hey, Tony is saying this. Tony is saying this. Is this right? Having me like, check up on what Tony was saying, because Tony was on Hash Church. And then finally he's like, you should come on and talk about terpenes and stuff. And my first episode was episode 19. I went back and watched it. And you had just come back from Amsterdam, I think, or Jamaica? No, Amsterdam, I think. Because Hash Church 18, your episode was going over to Amsterdam, and then you were over there for a week, and then you were in the airport in Toronto, and it was just me and Horatio at first on that episode number 19. So that was my first episode on Hash Church.
That's awesome.
Yeah, life wasn't the same. So it kind of forced me to go back and look at that, but it also I went back and looked at this long messenger thread that we had, and it's like, my gosh, he would just spill his guts about all kinds of things, and I know there was a little bit of a falling out there for sometimes. He had a falling out with Kenny. He thought that Trichome Kenny was going to sue him for something, or so. I don't exactly recall, but
the Terps. It's funny how it all connects.
He unloaded like a 3-page, I just don't know what to do. And, I can't really, I have to think about myself. And I was just like, hey, man, just keep doing your thing and, stay pure to what you do. And again, like I was saying in my Facebook post, his last message to me, which was about a year and a half ago, was like a little incoherent. It's like, didn't really make sense. I didn't really know what he was talking about, but I knew he was going through some difficult times. So
it was too bad about Kay. I've always liked Kay. I still like Kay. He still won't talk to me over the terpenes. It was Kay that called me and he said, listen, I have a gold nugget for you. Right. He said he was working with Shulgin. He was doing the terpene extraction. He had already posted the picture of Shulgin smelling the terpenes, that classic picture. And he sent me a message, or called me actually, and he said, listen, you need to figure out how to get the terpenes out of the bubble water, distill them down, and get them back into your product. And I was kind of like, do I need to do that? But I kind of, he was like, listen, it's really important. I just want you to do this. And I did not have time to do such a thing and was not in a position to do such a thing. So I told literally 2 people about it. I told Tony and I told Horatio. And those were the 2 people that brought terpenes to the market. And Kay was pissed about that. And I mean pissed. He was really mad. Like the text he sent me, I had to delete off my phone because they were so harsh. And he told me he had a patent. His patent was for every method of terpene extraction from cannabis whatsoever. It covered everything. It was very much not like Kay. It just wasn't. It didn't sound. I've known Kay for 20 years at this point in time, and this was the first time I ever had a disagreement with him, let alone. And I send him a message probably every 6 months saying, "Hey, bro, I'm thinking about you." He still won't message me back over this. He was so angry that Tony was able to create a success with his terpenes, and that Horatio was creating terpenes. And for me, I look back and I think, well, man, you could have just come out and done your terpene thing. I haven't seen him do anything in regards to terpenes since 2014. And it was a fairly important, as important as it was for Sam to do what he did with the very few of us that got to learn the modulating effects of terpenes back in early 2000s in his apartment in Amsterdam, because that was, of course, you can always trace it back to Sam, and Sam's not the one crying that everyone took this idea from him, but it always seems to be Sam, right? 2000, I think he hit me with the pure cannabinoids and the pure terpenes. I had never seen anything like it. But it was really Tony and Horatio who made it available to the public. They were suddenly now able to have these cannabis-derived terpenes, hold them in their hands, see them, feel them, smell them, touch them, consume them, dab them. And that was a big deal. And it is unfortunate that sometimes we end up in these clashes. And I know, Horatio was never in a position where he was making so much money that he was just very confident and secure. So for Kay to have laid that on him that he was going to sue him, that weighed on Horatio like a great deal. I had conversations with him about that, where it was like, listen, I had already gone through like a 6-year lawsuit with Reinhardt. So I was like, all right, Kay, like bring it on. You want to do lawsuits? Like I know how to do lawsuits. And that's another, 2 more, Reinhardt was never on Hash Church, but he was certainly a giant part of the hash community and the hash world, because he created that machine, and that machine was exactly where the bags were created from. RIP to Eldon, who was the gentleman who came up with the bag idea. RIP to Reinhardt, who passed away at the end of 2018 or the end of 2017, right when his patent expired. If you can imagine, Reinhardt passed away as his water extraction patent also perished. And I also want to give a shout out to Dr. Lester Grinspoon, who was also a Hash Church alumni, made it on here for a couple of episodes, and obviously lived an incredible life. It was not quite the sad story that it was with Horatio dying at such a young age. I'm sure Lester was more than twice Horatio's age when he passed away. So he lived this incredible life. He lived a long life, a fruitful life, and one that also affected the cannabis industry in a very, very deep and meaningful way. So we just want to shout out all of the lost brothers and sisters over the years and just let them know that we're thinking of them. And regardless of whether we had, falling outs or that we maintain these friendships, you still can be a big enough person to show respect for these people. And I'll say, I have nothing but respect for Kenny Morrow, Kay from Trichome Technologies. I hope to one day be his friend again. I personally have never stopped being his friend, but that terpene thing really, really bit him the wrong way. And it's unfortunate, but it is something that happens in our industry quite often. And we'll have to learn how to mature out of these experiences and bring things back full circle, because it's easy to burn bridges down. It's a lot harder to rebuild them.
Hey, I want to shout out to Dr. Lester Grinspoon. I was the PTS study in marijuana, the forbidden medicine. And, he touched my life back after the war and was willing to put forward. We all published anonymously, but I am thanked in the forward. But that was one of my early access to self-healing, was to actually, write down my story. I'd gone around and told it for a few years, going around being an activist with Cannabis Action Network. I was fortunate to do rallies in 47 states, got kicked out of Canada with our legal marijuana from LV Musica, but Dr. Grinspoon was a force, and, he suffered the slings and arrows for the things that he published and took a lot of heat for it as a pioneer. And as I look around at a whole bunch of other pioneers here, we all know, unfortunately, the painful piercings that can happen when you tread where nobody else has tread and tried. And Dr. Grinspoon definitely deserves an honor and hall in the darkest of ages, and pushed forward with his life for all of us to see, and giving me a shoulder to stand on. Needless to say, it was beyond humbling. I kind of want to give a shout out to, because I've been doing my own veteran healing, shout out to the Veterans Access Initiative, Rico and Pearson, and Veterans Virtual Happy Hour, Jose and them on Fridays. Have been keeping me sane during this COVID stuff. So we're working actually behind the scenes. We have some really cool stuff happening. Did you all know that the Compassionate IND program, or at least the Investigative New Drug Program, was reopened by the United States government due to Epidiolex? Oh, yeah. And so what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to re-access and take veterans through that and get access again, be it most likely from importation as opposed to getting that crappy Mississippi weed. But yeah, look out. We're coming out as a force.
Etienne,
yes, sir.
the Epilex is made out of a CBD variety I developed and licensed to GW.
I know you did, because you're the master. And thank you very much for what you did, because I have not tried Epidiolex, but at the same time, its creation and due to Sadovex's failure allowed the IND program to reopen. So that's huge for patients who want access to investigative new drugs, because it was shut down in the early 90s due to a congressperson basically saying, because a bunch of AIDS patients were signing up, that people were trying to, get access to the program so they could spread AIDS around the world, so that they could have the access to marijuana. And so they shut down the program.
Robert Randall helped arrange for the AIDS patients to make those applications for the program.
And for those who don't know, Robert Randall was the first person to win the right to have access to medical cannabis from the United States government, grown at the University of Mississippi in Oxford. So Dr. Osoli and them are still at it, but maybe through this program, we can get them to grow some good weed finally by importing from either Israel or some of these other countries that'll force them, even Canadian weed, which would be able to import for the Compassion IND program. Speaking of, which would you recommend as an access of your Canadian weed? What would you recommend to us American veterans, companies, etc.?
We would recommend regenerative hemp or cannabis grown organically, because we find that the chemicals that are often used in the grow can affect, the mind space of the medicine afterwards. So especially with, people from the military and stuff. And there are more people in our area in the Kootenays that have been licensed recently that could provide you with some of that medicine, which is, I'm going to say, somewhat new. I mean, the licensed producer program here in Canada has not been set up to really produce, like, let's say intentional medicine and whatnot. So, I would love to hook you up with a couple of people in our area and see if it would work out.
Some of the problems in Canada with organics as well, just like it's the same problem in California in the Salinas Valley, is that trying to grow organically while everyone else is bombing avid and malathion on their avocados and their raspberries and blueberries makes it damn near impossible to grow organically. You really have to make sure you choose your farm position wisely, and also potentially hope to control your neighbors' farms if they're being farmed or if they're being sold to people coming in with the intention of farming, because the amount of people who grow conventionally, which is the word they use for poison, is just astronomical. It is absolutely astronomical how many people. And so we've seen this. We've seen organic cannabis fail pesticides and without ever having sprayed a single pesticide on the plant. So that's kind of disconcerting when you think of the energy and the time and what it takes to do it in the right way. Also with Health Canada not really allowing, kind of like the US was there, where microbial counts, you were failing in microbial counts and they weren't necessarily the microbes that were the negative microbes. So these things have a long way to go, I think. Like obviously in Health Canada's programs, you're not allowed to have this sort of full closed loop, like have goats shitting over there and have your compost. Like it's very, very structured and very controlled. And hopefully, people like Josh and Kelly can have an influence, and that more and more people. I think the way to talk to these people is through the words terroir and Appalachia, and understand that we can't scrub those things out of cannabis the way we haven't scrubbed them out of the wine industry and out of the grape industry. If you ever considered offering that to the wine industry, hey, let's scrub the terroir out, grow in aseptic rooms with lights and nutrients, salt nutrients, and let's see what kind of wine we get out of that. I think that community would be like in an uproar and say, well, you can't do that. That's like the most important thing when we grow our grapes, next to the genetics themselves, is the terroir in which we grow. And so if the Canadian Cannabis Program, Health Canada, can start understanding the value of terroir and how it applies to cannabis, we may very well get to that place that you're already at, Josh.
There are two different crops, though, Marcus, because grapes are grown in native earth.
Yes.
Cannabis, very little cannabis grown outdoors is actually grown in native earth. Almost all of it is in bags or man-made soil.
Yes, that's true too.
So in the case of the regenerative farmers and even some of the two of the licensed farmers in our area, they are growing in native soil and they are growing outdoor varietals, and with the help of some of the genetic research going on with like Daryl Hudson and Implanta and all that. There's hemp that's being tested still outdoors and whatnot that can finish out here, because as we've stated before, Kelly and I have personally grown out a lot of the hemp almost all of the hemp varietals. I mean, you can't say all, but a shitload of them we've tried to grow them outdoors out here, and they just don't come. They just don't finish, and they don't have the same flavor or the same profiles. So getting an outdoor varietal that works out here, that's also registered in the Canadian hemp bracket is still in process. And let's say since the licensed producers here in Canada have somewhat had a failed run, and the Canadian government is seeing, how this isn't working. There's change coming to our community, and there's people that are looking at making changes, and maybe ATN or something you can talk to the Canadian people about what California has done with microbials, and California only tests for human pathogens, if I'm correct, which are E. coli and botulism and listeria. You could maybe name off all of them, but and I think using human pathogens as a something to test for, and heavy metals, that kind of makes sense to me.
I have a question.
Hey,
Because
Josh.
of soil, not everybody can prep their soil properly, okay, which is true, right? And I have veterans, and a lot of people ask me, well, what's the best over-the-counter soil that's on the market that you would recommend for cannabis growers that don't have access to do what you beautiful people do up at Dragonfly and others that actually prep their soil? What would you recommend as an over-the-counter soil that you could add to, et cetera?
I mean,
Go ahead.
I like Build a Soil a lot. I think they have a lot of options for the home grower. They also offer some cover crop solutions for you. I think that's a good way to start. And then there's also super soil recipes online that you can easily look up and mix and match your favorite amendments from, such as, the Dem Pure offerings that you have. You can mix your own soils pretty easily. And it doesn't really require much space to do something like that if you're doing, a small grow for yourself. And I'd highly recommend that for anyone out there to really get into the soil biology and biome of what you're doing. And I wanted to interject on what Josh was saying about growing at scale with regenerative practices. In upstate New York, there's a 2,600 acre farm that is rotational with 30 acres of hemp on it. And all we do on that farm is grow regeneratively using cover crop. And then we it's in a rotation with other crops. So it's very much on a schedule, much like a conventional farm would actually run their schedules. However, the inputs are actually foraged from the land itself, also doing carbon sequestering and things of that nature. So I think what I've seen over that time working with that project, I've seen, a lot of trials and tribulations, but I now feel, it's plausible to do this large scale. And I do believe that is something that we can all look towards.
I was just sitting here talking about all the organic growing and stuff like that. I remember when Horatio, he started making all the compost piles and stuff like that, and adding all the chicken shit to it and stuff like that. And he had, I'm at his house right now, and he's got all the big cement mixers, and you should see all the piles of, they have all the organic growers there and stuff like that, and all of his beds that he put out there because they're growing all their own food and stuff like that. And he really got really into what you guys are talking about, but he always tried to do it a little different. He always tried to do it his way. He always tried to kind of reinvent the wheel in some way and stuff like that. And I'm just seeing all these piles of near the hen right now, and he's got all this tarps over it, and he's getting all this dirt ready for spring for next year and stuff like that. And I think I'm going to go there and grab a bunch of that actually and pile it back in my truck and bring it to my house today, because I know he worked a lot on that, and that's my first of my living soils that I'm going to start because I keep talking about it.
Yeah, grow some herb and Horatio's. Grow some herb and Horatio's soil.
I am totally going to do that. I could see it there as you're talking about it. And thank you for talking about that, because I just forgot about what he was doing there. And then now seeing it there, I'm a little teary-eyed about it, of course, because he was a good friend. But it was pretty awesome to see just what we always put. And he was always saying the terps, we got to get those terps going. It was always about the terps, and he knew that the generative way was how they were going to get the best terps. And then he went into hydro, and I'm going through all this hydro gear right now. And I mean, he literally tried reinventing growing, guys. It was like these spinners and all these tubes and discs, and it was and he was always trying to get there. And when regenerative soils come into play here and all these living soils and stuff like that, like the flavors that we're getting from the cannabis is just so amazing. And really it's really cool to talk more about that, about trying to get those terps, trying to look at that whole natural thing. And that's what HOratio was all about, was all about natural. He didn't want any chemicals in anything. And if he did an extraction that had anything that was sprayed on it, he'd give it back to you. It's like, you can't spray anything on there. It had powdery mildew, so it's not working. And it was he was always chasing that. And I saw the soils as you're talking about that. And that's how we really got to give back, is by growing and getting those terps and living what you love to do, right?
Well,
So,
I'll tell you, we have it all on record, like there's a lot of HOratio recordings on Hash Church. And in fact, there's a lot of all of you guys on Hash Church. We're all going to meet our maker one day and pass on. And we'll all have done a ton of different things. But the amount of time and energy and talking and sharing that you guys have done here on this platform will and should live on for a very long time. I have them all backed up. I've removed them all, copied them all off of YouTube, so they're secure on multiple hard drives. I think of it as very, very priceless information that I never, ever plan to monetize, but always plan to share and give away and make sure that, what a great thing. Like Mark said, you can go back and you can watch literally hours and hours and hours. I think there's probably 6 to 10 videos with just myself and HOratio, maybe Johnny B as well. But then however many Hash Churches, I don't know if he was on 100 or 150 or how many Hash Churches he was on, but he was definitely on more than a few.
Freshly frozen
I'm
bubble
taking
man.
over the show now.
I don't know what happened. I was saying good things there.
Yeah.
You were.
You was profound. We were all wrapped.
HOratio's playing games with us.
That's good. I would just add, or go ahead if you want to say something. HOratio is shining his love down on us right now. I would add to what was said about all the soils, saying that I agree with everything that's said there, and it's beautiful that Johnny's being able to connect with, HOratio through the soil and through the terps and everything. And there's buying soil, online or getting it in bags, and that can be done. And then people will use teas on top of that to make it really work. And a lot of people will shoot for a big bud, kind of like like the bodybuilder or whatever. They go for the big bud rather than the actual depth of the soil and the flavor and the terps. So what I'm going to say is it's really important to make your own soil. So I think it's great, Colin, that you brought up build a soil and making your own soil. So when you make your own soil, and even veterans or people that have a small amount of space, I think it's really important to look at the components of your soil, and what the act of mixing all that and getting living microbes and putting that together is a healing process in itself. And then you start getting your seed together, you start thinking and connecting with the soil and then the seed, and you put the seed in there, or a clone, and then you put that in there. Because growing isn't an automatic thing. It's something that really is a spiritual connection. So making your own soil is really the first part of that. And buying dust and powders and stuff from stores is only so alive. So I would say going out on a walk, and I want to make this really clear, is and selectively grabbing some inoculants from nature, whether it's, and I realize some people don't live near nature, so I'm in full awareness that not everyone can do this. So but for the people that can, you can grab like a small little handful and put it in a small bag of leaf duff and leaf matter, and that's your living organisms. And the living organisms really need something to continue living. So adding a little bit of mulch to that gives it something to continue living on. So the interaction between raw materials and soil is the living part. So a person doesn't have living soils by buying a bunch of amendments and mixing them together and them being called biological. They're biological and they're alive when they're eating something. So top dressing, you know, nettle powder or alfalfa powder, or, you know, whatever you can get, ganja leaf, any of your defoliating leaves that are healthy that you could dry out, or you could just drop them right on your soil, and that feeds the top layer. We know the top layer of soil is the most active. So you want layer of soil once you get your soil base. So that's where the depth of terpenes come from. That's where the plant is able to express itself. We know the plant is expressing itself, and Mark and different people can talk about the science behind how a plant is able to be different in an aeroponic situation or a hydroponic or a fully biological rich soil. So there's a lot of people nowadays moving towards, you know, using these soils in a production way and also in a backyard way. And, you know, and I just want to really encourage people to continue with it, because it's the future, and it's how we're going to make it into the future. And it's how we, you know, are going to be able to connect with longevity. And longevity is missing right now in our lives in many different areas. So
I would add to that, Josh.
Mixing your own soil is really, really important.
I would add to that if you want a great book for learning all of this that's really fun and easy to read, this comic book is like second to none. It blew me away. Grow Organic. It starts with this like Dutch guy, and he's growing with salts and chemicals, and he's looking on the labels, and he's like, what the heck? Look at all this stuff. This stuff can kill you. And so he tosses it all away, and he starts learning about organics, and he basically they go through the entire book, the nature cycle. Takes you through like this beautiful visuals of what's going on in the plant, what's happening with the cellulose, strategic cocktail room, nitric and citric acids, like all of this complex information put into a comic book that I've been reading to my son, and basically picking up the knowledge just while I read this to him at bedtime to go to sleep. So definitely check this out. It's on Amazon. Freely adapted from the Organic Grow book by Carol Schellhout and Michiel Panhuisen. I'll put their names up because I didn't spell them very well. You can take a little snapshot of that. And
it's also on Kindle.
Yeah, exactly. It is great. And it was Alpenglow that I believe shared this the first time on a show that Josh and Kelly were doing.
And also Jesse, BioVortex.
Yes.
Regenerative Cannabis Farm, where Jesse's got a character in that book, and he was in communication with those two in, I believe, France when they were creating it. Yeah, it's an awesome book. Totally agree. It's
definitely France.
Kids book made, you know, for, you know, everyone. Also, Rodale's Guide to Compost is a really good base from the 40s till now. You know that, and they continue to bring information about regenerative farming. Another thing to look into is in your local community is municipal compost and municipal dirt that's being made in your area. The issue you might run across, and you can ask them for testing, is if there's any roadside sprays or any vegetation that's been used from, say, golf courses or something that can contaminate the soil. So maybe before you use a local municipal compost, hi Alice, before you use the municipal compost, maybe ask them if they have testing for fertilizer residuals or herbicides or fungicides. So municipal compost is also kind of like, when it's good, it's a local soil that has organisms from your local area. And we could go on and on about soil, but blessings, Alice. How are you today? How are you holding up in your community?
Hey everyone, good morning. Happy to see you all. Sorry I'm late on a Sunday. I woke up kind of late today. I am well. The sun is shining today. I've been kind of stoked that there's not that much smoke in the air here in North Cal. And pretty excited to see the Soil movie too. And you were talking about the soil, and I can't wait to see the Kiss the Ground. You guys were talking about this before? Has anyone seen it? Flynn's here with me too. He's gonna join in a minute. And just want to say happy Sunday to you all.
Awesome. Well, welcome, Alice. It's good to have you guys both here. It's we wanted to definitely talk a little bit about the fires today as well, and how that's affecting everyone down along the West Coast, and how we can kind of point people in the direction of the right ways to offer help. You know, I'm on an email chain with Josh and Kelly from Dragonfly Earth Medicine. You may very well be on it as well, Alice. I don't look at the names, but it was nice to see all these people just offering help, and, you know, like whatever it is, no matter how small, it's offered, and it's like, look, this is what I can offer, and this is what I will offer. So that makes you feel good when it's not, you know, people using each other as ladders to climb on top of one another to get to the top, but they're actually like helping each other and putting a hand down to lift someone up. So that's the kind of communities I want to be involved with.
Yeah, and during this time of political turmoil and environmental turmoil, there's just a lot of divisive potential out there, you know, who's going where, you know, which direction and everything. And even in the cannabis space, you know, we've talked about it, it can be a competitive space because people are trying to make it work with ideas and all that. But, you know, what we've really done within our community is just really bring in the supportive aspect and realize that us all coming up together is a success. And part of the success is just supporting each other. So during this fire situation, I mean, it's been a long, like almost a month now of problems with fires in Oregon and in California. And some people have been awoken at night not knowing there was a fire, like the ones in Oregon recently, and definitely California too. But what, you know, as far as Oregon goes, a lot of those fires started during that night of wind where it was 70 miles an hour wind, and people didn't even know there was a fire, and by the time the fire came, it just engulfed everyone. And it was we know there was one person, you know, that there's a bunch of people that got burnt up in their houses, and one of our close family members, you know, ran out of his house. His neighbor woke him up, and he went out with two different socks in his underwear. And you hear a lot of these stories, you know, and he lost everything. And he's a cannabis grower for 20 years on the coast of Oregon. They love his Sheldon. And, you know, he lost all of his clothes he's been working on. And our family members in Portland, and Meg and Liz and Pat and a bunch of people, Casey, you know, helped get a lot of his strains back to him because he gave plants to people in the Portland area, and they were flowering out, and people went to their houses. You know, to get back to him so he could continue his journey of, you know, breeding and get his life back together. And he's working on court cases right now against the electric companies because electricity went out. And then the fire, I don't know what's right and wrong, you know, with electricity, but electricity is a big thing that's killing us, you know, when it comes to massive fires, you know. So wires go down and fires start, and it's insane. You know, there's no forestry management that's going to stop that. You know, we go on and on about managing and all that, but so it's been phenomenal. So another thing is actively at the moment in Trinity County, Flower Days Farm is super, you know, nervous about a fire that's in their area. And, you know, I'll say a few things that we don't know for sure, but there are like backfires and fires getting started, you know, to burn back the fire, and drones maybe starting fires to stop the fire from growing and burning out some people. And it's like a level of insanity going on around there, you know, and people just don't know. I mean, you just wake up every minute of the day looking which way the wind's blowing. And, you know, Wade, maybe you can talk about some of the links that you know about. But you know, Rio and Alpenglow and Gil, Ganja Gil, and Walter from Soul Spirit, Holly Hall and Crystal, you know, a bunch of other people. But, you know, those people have said like, you know, hey, Carla and Jacob, we got you covered. We got a truck. We got the last hose. We got a pump. You know, what food do you need? We're on our way right now today, you know, and maybe it was yesterday in the afternoon, but it's like right now where they're bringing over a total support crew for them. And I would just say, you know, we have our network because you can only have what network you have, but, you know, people are really willing to help one another right now. And it's really important to band together and also to help protect each other, because insane people are out there, and take this opportunity to prey on your property. So as you're evacuating, reality is true. You have to fucking guard your property too, because assholes are coming to fucking steal things. And so it's insane. So be diligent and strong, and, you know, use, you know, your community. And, you know, I just want to give special love to the Pure Certified community and all the people that are beyond that are helping people. And the fires are crazy right now. Wade, do you have any input on that? Because you've had a lot of input. Also, Valerie Corral in Santa Cruz. You know, big love to Brett and Dos Perros, who did lose his home completely. You know, and I know Valerie right now, you know, has said that all of the floor space in her house is taken up by people who have lost their homes.
Yeah, Foxworthy Farms, who supports us in Berkeley, Martin O'Brien, he just lost his house and part of the farm. Part of it was saved. It's just the winds are so random. I mean, it's amazing what survives and what doesn't. So much love to Valerie and everybody else. I know they've had a very challenging time. I heard they.
Did he mute himself right at the end there, or was that just me?
What was the last thing you said, Etienne?
I said I heard that Valerie's farm was saved.
Yes. They didn't know at first, and it was like one of those things like, oh, what's up? But they from what I know at this moment, it is saved.
Yeah, there was a lot of confusion, and even she didn't know, and I saw her posting on social media. So I heard through the rumor control that, you know, it was saved. So to hear confirmation is great to hear, although I know there's definitely damage, etc. And expect a lot of Smoky Kush and Hickory Kush on the East Coast this year, people.
Chipotle bubble.
Say it again, Marcus. What was that?
I call it Chipotle bubble. People are like, "Oh, there's something weird with this bubble," and I'm like, "Oh, that's like wildfire's bubble." I've
gonna be the Chipotle sauce.
Yeah, it's just got this smoky flavor. It's terrible. Like, it's not definitely funny. Like, it's not funny, but it is like, fuck. Like, it's unbelievable. I just pray and I pray and I pray that 2021 doesn't say to 2020, "Hold my beer."
Yes.
People have to understand, because the plant is resinous. All that smoke debris sticks to the plants and kind of gets into it, and you can't wash it off. So unlike fruit, you know.
Yeah, but I think they could just turn it into distillate, right? Because they could clean up distillates. So
yeah, that's what they have to do, Mark. That's the only thing.
That's the only option.
People, you know, yeah, a lot of those, you know, and it's nice to have an option, but a lot of those people are you know,
they're all organic growers.
Sun, and the thing, they're like, oh, sweet, I just made an isolate. It's like, it's not really very successful in that sense, you know. But
yeah, from the farmer's point of view,
I know. Go ahead.
From the farmer's point of view, if your business model, if you will, is set up on the idea of being able to sell high-end trimmed flowers that people consume by smoking, you've got a price point that's considerably different than what's usually offered for material that ends up being distillate. It's a really significant difference in price.
Oh yeah.
And what's true about the fires this year is it's really a kind of a tragedy all across California and across the country. Actually, it's kind of to me, it's a like Marcus was saying, hold my beer, because more is coming. what happened here with fires back in August was early in August, around the 8th or the 9th, one night, a line of thunderstorms blew from south to north along the length of California, mostly along the Coast Range. And there were like 12,000 lightning strikes at the beginning of August. So everything was bone dry, and literally thousands of fires started. Most of them were clumped, like I said, along the Coast Range. And I think I saw that on CAL FIRE's website this year, and this was like a week ago, we had 26 times the amount of acreage has burned so far this year. And really, we're early in the fire season. 26 times more has burned this year than burned last year. We had a bad fire season last year.
Do you think there's, I know that this is overhyped in the news a lot and certainly things that we should be concerned about, but do you think there's a direct correlation to climate change?
Well, of course. Well, climate change and large areas that, speak plainly, belong to either large property owners and or the U.S. government or state governments, and there's no funding to do any sort of forest management other than cutting trees for lumber.
60% of California is federal forest land. On top of that, we're also, as Wade is talking, there's also been not proper burning for decades. So there's unfortunately a lot of fuel out there. On top of that, sudden oak death has also caused problems throughout forests because you have certain trees dying in certain areas, and those are dry tinder, which only, and they're spotted throughout.
Yeah, here in the Sierra Nevada.
I didn't mean to interrupt you there, Wade.
No. Here in the Sierra Nevada, the pine beetle. Yeah.
You have the eucalyptus as well. That's
yes.
highly flammable.
Yeah.
And
so
it is really worse now. It is worse now for all the reasons you guys are saying. But let's be perfectly frank and honest. It's the natural cycle of the forest in California that lightning strike burns down huge areas. It takes 100 years to regenerate. This has been going on for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Man is what stuck his houses in the middle of this.
Yes, exactly, Sam. I'm a good example of that. I've got, a little farm at 1,000 meters in the Sierra Nevadas near Grass Valley, Nevada City area. And I love, part of why I came here is there's so many beautiful trees. We have huge chestnuts and oaks. I mean, we have on a 4-acre property, we have 4 oaks that are 120 feet tall and bigger than our house. They're just amazing. And we have an amazing amount of acorns dropping this year, as a matter of fact. But back to fires, what we've done is a pretty serious effort of fire safe clearing, as it's called, and we haven't really satisfied the requirements, but you kind of live with this idea that, as Josh was saying, at any moment, particularly on a windy night or day, all of a sudden there's smoke in the air, and you've got literally a couple of minutes to get your shit together and be ready to leave because you might get burned out. And what's real about that is it's actually happened to a number of people we know. And those of us who have not had that, and we are in that category, there's been a couple of fires in our county. A big one north of us is happening in the same area where the fire 2 years ago killed 80-some people in the town of Paradise. And that was a fire that was started by PG&E's electrical transmission system failing in a river canyon. One of the hangers on a high-tension wire broke and cascaded sparks, and it was a windy morning about 5 o'clock, and by 7 o'clock, the town of Paradise was on fire. And everybody that was in it that didn't make it out is one of those 88 dead. So we all live with that idea that could happen at any moment, particularly for those of us that live in an urban, or excuse me, the wildlands, where, like myself, I live in a whole bunch of trees. It's a beautiful spot. I'm really grateful to have it. But yeah, fire happens here, just like Sam was saying.
Well, one of the things you can do besides a fire break is to have tile roofs and have brick or stone exterior walls of your house. Those are almost impossible to burn.
Yeah.
Another really good thing to do is a lot of the conifer trees and things that are right directly around your home. You cannot have those a conifer tree right around your home, and then have more grassy or garden areas right around your home, and then putting a sprinkler on the peak of your roof and hard plumbing in, like with maybe a metal conduit, sprinklers on the top of your roof, and turn them on so there's like a wall of water coming down your roof. And a lot of people have been able to save their homes with fire just going right around their house. So, I'm a little nervous that everyone's just like, oh, we got to cut all of the branches and trees down in order to save ourselves from fires. And I just want to encourage people, instead of burning off your branches, consider digging them into the earth. Consider putting those branches.
If you leave them around your house, they're going to burn anyway from the sparks in the air.
And to speak what Collins was
saying, find a mini excavator or someone and dig them into the earth. Go ahead, AT.
Eucalyptus trees are not only a problem, they're an inundation problem, because California brought in a whole bunch of eucalyptus back in the day. I think 27 different varietals here, and they're not indigenous. They brought them because they wanted them to grow paper or grow wood. Unfortunately, the microbes in the soil causes the wood.
Just broke up there.
Second, the oil also kills a lot of everything. Sorry, the oils also, kill everything below. So you've got a combination of trees that will also full of oil that can explode. So that's also a problem in California that isn't really talked about.
Eucalyptus also
and it's not good
sucks out all the moisture from the ground.
And eucalyptus is not good to make a hugel pile from. Go ahead, Colin.
Yeah, I was just gonna just kind of add to what you guys were saying, and it's an invasive species, and it does need to be managed. And to your point, it's hard to deforest eucalyptus because it's so invasive. It's unbelievable how invasive that species is. So
I'm amazed how people don't talk about that reality. You know what I'm saying? None of the news touches on that. And it's because it's so invasive, it's in every forest and thick, and they overtake a great part of where they grow.
I think you're right. I think it's a good, Marcus, wouldn't you say it's a good time for a group dab?
I think Johnny B had some of Horatio's Terp champagne out. He was going to make a toast maybe, and we'll have a nice little dab. I think that's in order.
I will definitely open this bottle, but it will be in a room of some special friends, and it's Horatio Delbert concentrate, LHO, and he gave me one of these bottles. Like, you guys, this is like 5 years old, 6 years old. It's one of his first bottles. And I was going to kind of crack it on his service, but there's going to be a day that we open this bottle in honor. And today's not really that morning right now, but I would like to one day celebrate with his Terp champagne. And I remember when he came up with the first Terp champagne, and I know, Mark, you've tried it. And I brought some bottles to my friend's wedding there back in 2016. And just an honor to be able to have some of the first Terp champagne and still be able to celebrate. But now I got this LHO on the end of this dab rig right here. Get out my Temp Tech, heat it up, and I started smoking a little bit of this right away there when his passing happened. And I got like one left, but I'm going to keep that last one for my last time.
Long rip, mother lovers.
I've got some nice hatch here from Flav, Marcus. Flav 421 came on over, Dave, and spent some time at our house last night. It was super good to see him, and he, it was his first time here on the property. Came out with our buddy Alex. Big love to him and them, and they dropped off some nice hash, some pie face.
I've got some of that pie face.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, he left. Good. He came here and we squished some pie face, some Renee, some OG. What was it? It was like it was Trop Santo crossed with cookies.
Oh yeah, I think that's what this. I think that's when this one is, Dave. You'll remind me.
LA Joe right now is. I'm just sharing it with you because I'm just dabbing it right now, and it's being like 6 years old. Wow, I can't believe the flavor is still there. Like totally, that's so flavorful.
Well, it was literally made with terps.
Did you save it in the freezer, Johnny?
It's been in the fridge the whole time inside my little box here, specialness. I got D420K's first little dry sift he gave me. I got your first dry sift, Mark, on a card here when you did your first sift for me. I got everybody's little bit of box in there. I like all those memories is all in this little box of Trippy Stick box I even got from you, dude. If I open it up, I got all the little treasures that we've done over the last little bit, but the first static sifts from right here to some of the first Limi to some of the first dabs that we made to all the little histories of the stuff that we've done over the years. It's pretty cool. You can see,
like when we laughed so hard after that dab that it took me 45 minutes to make.
Oh fuck, that was hilarious, man. Like, yeah, and laughed our heads off and stuff like that. But I mean, it's I can't believe the terps in there and stuff like that. Like, so amazing. The banger's pretty, Chaz though. That was one thing, right? But
Chaz'd out your banger.
Yeah, is it the time? I was gonna say, is it the time for the?
Oh no,
it's the time. Are we doing slow starts? Cold starts. Little cold.
I did a cold start myself.
I'll do a cold start too here.
A little quicker.
I don't do the cold start. Actually, yeah.
I got some solventless THC.
You had some good time sitting there on CCHQ doing dabs with HOratio and stuff. He pulled all the dabs. I got some great pictures of all of us together. There's one really good one that's one of my favorites. It's a me, HOratio, and D420K, and I think Flowers in the
What are you?
It's kind of like a shout out.
Yeah,
what are you smoking, Alex and Flynn? What are you smoking?
Now I just did some 24K to start the day. That orangey vibe. It's a beautiful strain that actually Todd from Resin Ranch brought up, and he has this great cut that has beautiful melt. And for me, it's like a morning orange juice. Seriously, super creative.
We got a 24K taffy from Joey, and I'm pretty sure he must have made it with Todd during those times when they were at the Mendo hideout.
Maybe it's this one.
Oh, it probably is. It probably is. Yeah, we got some. We're still working on those varietals in that line right now. It's pretty sweet. Do you know what the taffy was by any recollection?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
And this one
actually was a tangy.
It was a test.
That's what I thought too.
That's from Brandon and Amanda. It's their papaya punch cut. We washed it for the first time. They gifted us the cut, and then we washed it for the first time. We were doing also actually the melt test here. Just check out where is it going to be.
Give thanks. We got the strawberry guava cut from them and the purple punch cut from them.
The guava is insane, dude. It makes the best hash I've ever seen. It's crazy.
I'm getting really ready to make up the first bits of it from our light depth that we did this year, and it came out just so good because British Columbia had a good year.
Nice. Yeah, the purple punch.
Yeah,
I've been wanting to get that strain since Mark put those terpenes underneath my nose when I came out of surgery, and it took my pain away. I really want to grow it, so I've been asking for it for like 5 years. So, if I could get a cut of that, or even try it, like just actually have some of it to see how it affects me again, it'd be fantastic.
All right. Well, hey, Johnny, we're going to get our trims done here, and we're going to take like big trip out to the coast, and we're going to come visit you and Marcus and some of there and spend some time. So we'll bring you what we have, and we just gave Flav some of our ruffle plant to try and to clone and whatnot.
Dude,
and stuff. But also we got the guava punch.
John had literally just gotten out of back surgery, like neck spinal surgery, when Dee and I went to put that purple punch under his nose. I brought 30 different terpenes that day in a Pelican case and sat by his hospital bed. And that was a super intense floor of a hospital. Like every single person had these crazy posts coming out of these casts around their necks, like attaching them to their beds. Like it was heavy duty. And then John is all like, hey guys, oh, what's up guys? Like just like super animated. Man, what a trip. And of course it's all filmed on YouTube. There's a video of us, that whole thing. Even when you can see him smell it and be like, oh my God, that like took my pain away. Just for a second.
I pulled it away from you. I'm like, give that back to me.
Yeah, you did. I watched it
so much. You guys are like in the park.
It's got a really deep.
What's that?
It's got a very deep, like rich flavor to it, and it's kind of like I feel like a little anise or some kind of a deep licorice-ish flavor. If I'm right on that, I don't know. It's very nice. And then they made the guava punch, Brandon and Amanda, the guava punch seeds. And those turned out phenomenal. And I could probably bring you a few of those seeds if you're interested, Johnny.
I'm always interested in growing and learning about terps and finding different strains that work for me and stuff like that. And that was the biggest thing. And when you find something that works, like cannabis, that's why I preach it so much to everybody, because shit works. It's like, it's a no-brainer, guys. It's like, if you're in pain or you're suffering in any way, or you just want to relax or just have a good time, smoke a joint. But that one smell, it was literally, I would pull it away and go, like, and that's when I started looking at, Save the Terps, looking at terpenes that modulate tea and how it helps me. That's why the big thing with HOratio was the terpenes. He saw how it helped me so much, because HOratio spent a lot of time coming over to the house and putting transdermal creams on my neck when I first came out of surgery. So if you guys don't know, they took out my C4 and C5 vertebrae. And that's what I really started looking at, how terpenes were helping me with my pain, because of what Mark brought in and what HOratio was doing, and just everything that was happening at that point of my life really pushed me to know that terpenes was a way of being able to standardize my medicine by controlling water. Chase trying to standardize my medicine by decarboxylating. HOratio was doing a lot of creams and stuff like that help with healing effects, which I wish we had that one recipe. But I mean, yeah, now I'm just talking about how great cannabis is and how the terpenes help so much. But that purple punch was something else, man. It was definitely, now we talk about
the Hindu Kush has a really nice flavor profile that you might like too, which is a really good one. We got the Graceland cut from Southern Oregon and grew it out this year, and it's just like,
the old Kushes work very well for me. So remember, the Medi Kush is more of like a pre-96, pre-94, like a Kush. The Bubba Kushes, the Hindu Kushes. PK wasn't that much, but those heavier indicas is what works well for those terpenes and those flavors, the high THC, more a higher CBD, lower CBN. That was a lot of research.
We've got some beautiful glazed cherry crosses that we did this year, and the glazed cherry is like so dark and deep red on the stalk and the leaf, and I really love the flavor.
We got some of that. It was glazed cherry. I don't know if it was glazed cherry or a cross of it from Brandon and Amanda, the rosin, and dude, it was some of the most interesting terpene profile I've had from a hash in a while. That was like, it wasn't really like anything else that I could say. It was so interesting and unique. I loved it a lot.
Was it a White Lotus glazed cherry? Does that remind you? No. Okay.
It was a glazed cherry dog. I don't know why.
Oh, okay.
Wrong, but I think it was
that makes sense. That could have been the dog from Jesse and the glazed cherry from Green Source is my guess.
Okay, yeah.
But
said it was from BioVortex, actually, so that makes sense more.
Yeah, it's nice to see a lot of the Ecuadorial lineage kind of coming back into everyone's palate again. You know, the indica stuff was really dominating for a long time, and I've been really partial to the flavors and to the, you know, I love gas, but I want more than just gas. I'd love to see, you know, the expansion on it. It's kind of nice to see. It's really exciting. You know, there's a lot of really nice stuff coming out, and I'm growing a lot of really, really fun stuff that's just super terpy, you know. And Johnny, go ahead.
Pardon me?
I was gonna say, Johnny, you might like the Straw Nana to get the 14% cut or something like that. That might be a really nice one for you to run if you like those types of terpenes.
I just actually tried something that no one's tried yet. It's the 24-week Black Colombian cross with the Girl Scout cookies. And that was that first joint you just saw me light for the first time when I first lit Hash Church, and I was sitting there smoking it. And that was kind of something really nice. So I'm playing with all kinds of different flavors, but I like the old school. So I'm kind of digging into some old vaults of some 88, 89, 91, some of the genetics from just, I guess, you know, that's what I grew up with. It's what helped me. It's what I like, those flavors, and all these newer flavors I've been hitting. And I was talking with Darren about it and stuff like that. It seems like the gas isn't there anymore. It seems like that old gas is just missing from the strains with all these new genetics and stuff like that. So it's the gas that kind of works. I like that. I like that dank. I like that gas. I like that flavor.
Terpinolene. I think that's terpinolene.
Yeah,
And speaking of terpinolene, we
gas?
grew the Jack. We grew the old Jack clone again this year, Jack Herrera.
Yeah, Jack is high in terpinolene. Jack and
Darren's got that OG Kush from like 91, and everybody wants it because it's high in that. Yeah, I'm kind of looking at why are we losing it, Mark? What are they doing?
You just want this. You need the sour cut then.
Dude, I don't know what any of you guys are talking about. I love everything. I love it all. I just love all the different flavors and differences. And I'm like, I never seem to be complaining. I always have like 5 or 6 different things that are bomber in front of me that are just all different. I always have the Straw Nana. Definitely like always have some Straw Nana.
It's it's like picking the lead violin out of the orchestra and saying, "Yeah, I like the violin."
Yeah,
like the whole orchestra.
I see you guys are mostly vaping on pipes with a torch.
What do you have there?
He muted himself.
What do you have there? Sam, show us that. Put that back up there.
It's a Swiss perk.
It's a Swiss perk for sure, with an e-nail, exactly.
But what's unusual is I haven't turned it off in 3 years. It's been
so it's on in the morning over coffee,
years, huh? Except for I took it to Jamaica for a couple of weeks.
Ever since Trump got elected. As soon as Trump got elected, he turned it on, right?
Oh my God. Dude.
That was 3 years ago, right?
I left my D-nail on for about 2 years, and then one day I was in the shower and I came out and the whole bottom of the bowl fell off and it burnt a hole in my counter, and I unplugged it. I'd have put it away. It hasn't been plugged in for years now. I almost burnt down my house.
Don't do that.
Maybe it's because I have a dabinator. They're built in Germany with discipline.
Yeah, they're not good on humor, but they're great on engineering.
Not only that, but they work with both European and American electricity.
That's what I liked about the Dabinator, to be honest. I always would like take my D-nails to Amsterdam, and then I would forget that like 40-pound converter thing that they would give me at the Krasnopolski Hotel. It was I carried that thing around Amsterdam with me. That's how ridiculous this is. And when I finally met the Dabinator dude, he was just like, here, take one of these, check it out. And I traveled all around with that thing, and all I had to do was plug a different plug into the back of the unit. And I didn't have to carry any giant thing. And I was like, okay, that is pretty awesome.
Also works with 12 volt.
Yeah.
Well, now companies make them in EU. Earlier ones was a challenge, but I know D-nail, mini-nail, they all make EU units now. So
Dude, but you know what would happen?
You D-nail.
Did you have it happen to you, Etienne? Like what happens when you take that to a different country and plug it in with a different plug with no inverter?
I had no issues. Yeah.
Well, generally what would happen to the D-nails when I first got them, and I don't know what years this was, 2000 something, it would pooch the whip. The electricity would go through and just instantly pooch the whip. And I have a video where I'm in my little apartment in the Krasnopolsky, and I've got the camera set up, and I'm kind of moving around. I'm setting everything up, and I realize it happens. I go over, and I'm like, oh, no. Shit. And it was so fucking hilarious. I kept it in the video. I was like, oh, I got to let people see my reaction to this because it's so honestly like bummed and pissed. And then I find, I remember this had happened to me already at least one time. So I had bought an extra whip. Yeah, you may be. If you were, you'll be in the video. I think it was Tony for some reason, but you might have been in the video too. It's on YouTube. It's one of my Amsterdam videos.
We plugged in the inverter, and you didn't plug in the inverter. I think I might have plugged it into the wall and blew it, and we didn't have the D-nail in the beginning. Remember that one? Was that Spain?
Well, that might have been. No, that might have been Amsterdam the year before, which is why I brought the second whip. I'd have to go back and watch the video, but it doesn't sound like the one you did.
I was
you have on
later
video
that day after you had done it.
In Amsterdam, yeah.
Correct, at the Krasnopolsky.
Yeah, the Krasnopolsky. Yeah, no.
You have a different one. Mine worked fine, no problem in Barcelona. So yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, but I will know in the future to take an extra whip just in case.
Dude, I'm telling you, that was like a super bummer. Hey, I wanted to give a shout out to my colleague, work colleague and friend, Shahed, who has just recently left Embark. She's going back home to Ontario, but she painted this photo of a trichome of mine. I took this photo at my friend's house in Port Alberni a long time ago. I don't know if it was over 10 years ago. The cultivar is Burmese fucking incredible is the cultivar. But she painted this little trichome photo for me up above my shoulder here, and I just wanted to give her a shout out and a thank you because
you should have painted the one with your face reflecting in the trichome head.
Those were the clear domes. I do have a video where I put headband hash on a sapphire insert by D-Nail, and I put it on, and it's the most incredible thing. It starts bubbling like crazy, and in every single bubble, you can see my reflection of me hitting the pipe. It was definitely like some crazy hash inception type shit. But if you guys haven't seen that, I could find it because it's pretty ridiculous.
I like
I want to see that.
Yeah,
I want to see that too.
See if I can find it.
Moment, you were actually Bubble Man.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
True.
And that's where it began.
True,
I think so, right?
It's fucking mental. I hope I didn't delete it. I kind of feel like, oh no, there
the
it is.
man in the bubble.
Hey, Mark,
Okay,
I like your Garcia hat.
Oh, thank you very much.
There's we're working on getting the Jerry
Here you
Garcia
go.
line. Oh, go ahead, Marcus.
Oh, I don't have to say anything. I'm just showing you. This is the video of me in the clear domes.
Bubble, toil and trouble.
Wait, I just saw you right there on the big one on the right. Damn.
Dude, I'm in every one if you look closely.
That's crazy.
Oh, that's funny.
1,000 Marcuses.
Every bubble, dude.
He's actually Bubble Men.
Exactly.
Wow, right there. Yeah, I saw it again. There it is.
That's
Holy crap.
Hey, you were standing
Opening up your videos, Marcus, on your YouTube channel. Like you should change it, like for this bubble.
It's pretty funny, huh?
Awesome.
It's like a
Whoa.
cell family reunion. It's like all your cells over how many different.
Dude, I wish I had a video of me making this video and then watching it while editing it and realizing what had happened. I wish I had a video of that because I was also very Johnny B-esque. I was like a child in a candy store. Oh!
It's like you're getting high in all these different dimensions.
Oh my God, dude. As a macro photographer, videographer, like I had never captured anything like that before. I'd been working with refractions. This is the first refraction photo I ever took. And if you look closely in the trichome, there's a reflection of a cannabis leaf in the two main trichomes, in the tall trichome. So that was my first version of it that I ever got. And I never really went too much further in it. And then I got that video. And so really, this photo and that video are really the only two refractions that I have where I'm like something's reflected in it. Looks pretty cool.
Marcus, I'm going to ask you something. Do you have videos of teaching how to take macro photographies? You inspired me a lot, and I just got a macro.
Oh, so nice. Yeah. Well, you know what? We'll do another show, but there is one where I invited some really great macro photographers. I can't remember, maybe Eric Nugshots was on there, and Shale, I think, showed up. And I had invited all the guys. Yeah. I basically had invited all the people I thought of as sort of that had taken that macro cannabis photography to the next level. I sort of stopped at a level. These guys just took it to the next level. Doing a bunch of things that I wanted to do, but never really got, inspired enough to make it happen. And like, for instance, Shale creating his own measurement scale with the trichome heads and now 118 microns like that I wanted to do for like 10 years. So I hit him up the other day. I was like, dude, where'd you get that template? He's like, I made it. I just made the template. I was like, damn, right on, bro. That's what's up. That's because that shit's not easily available to just go and find somewhere. So we did one show. All of those guys were on it, and we talked about macro photography. I wanted to invite a variety of people because depending on the lens that you have, you really need to take your advice from someone who has that lens. If I give you advice for an MPE Canon lens and you're using reversals with billows and extension tubes, it's not quite the same. So I don't know what kind of macro camera you have or lens, but it inspires me to do another show. Invite those guys on.
I really wanted to photograph like resin heads too, but not only on the plant. And you talked about it a lot, like actually photographing the melt, like the trichome heads like separated, and that's what I want to make it for. And photograph all the single source we make so we can like understand more. Not only to make photography, but also to study the plants. Like I think it can be
Marcus.
Check out Doobie Duck. He's an amazing macro photographer.
I've known Doobie for years.
Dude, his stuff is whole other level.
Yeah, no, it's excellent.
Did you ever do stacked shots so that you increase your depth of field?
Well, that's what these guys do now. The majority of them are stacking shots. I never stacked shots. I did stack photography. I remember the first time a guy showed me, he's like, this is how you do stack photography. And he had a rail system and this intense thing. And it was like moving the camera a tiny little bit each time he took a shot. And I was like, I think I've got a better idea. And I put my subject, the first stacked image I ever did, it was 35 shots. I put the subject on my bubble box with a felt bottom on a wooden table. And I took shots and then I pushed the box over to the right, like just a millimeter each time, and took the shots. His chin was on the floor. He couldn't believe it. He'd always been moving his camera. He never thought to move the subject. And so I just did that, took 35 shots, snapped them together. It was similar to this shot, this hash shot, but it was a little bit different. It looked great, but it felt like, to me, I think I'm just an old school photographer. It felt kind of like cheating. It took away that challenge.
It is cheating. Cheating.
Yeah, it took away the challenge of well, and reducing the depth of field. I'll tell you something from my photography, and I started taking my shots like this one handheld. I don't put my camera on a tripod. I want to learn how to actually take that photo and manipulate that small depth of field that I have. And I always suggest to people who want to learn macro photography, learn to do this first and then learn stacking. Because if you learn stacking first, when I talk to these stack guys, they can't believe that I'm taking my shots handheld and getting the shots that I'm getting.
Yeah, and I'd like
to do it automatic.
Yeah, like some do. Some do stack in the macro.
I have a Lumix GH5 and it does amazing stacking, just totally automatic on the 6K function.
Nice. I was going to say, Marcus, I think you were the first person I ever met. I think we connected as artists and creatives really, and then cannabis was kind of second for us. Who really made sense to me to look at the plant from a closer point of view and using your lenses and the tools that you're using as creatives to make other projects and other things, to learn about the resin and really look towards the plant as not only a subject matter, but a vehicle to learn about the chemicals and the different things that you could, such as extraction and whatnot. But I think that's really the first, some of the first photography, Marcus, was of Trichome Heads is really that I saw, other than scientific photography, was really from you, and the work that you had kind of put out so helpful and so graciously, because not everybody was sharing that kind of point of view at that point in time, that that late 90s early 2000s kind of black space, as we will.
Yeah. Well, I got to shout out perhaps your giddy aunt, who took the first clear dome shot on a screen that was like epic on Overgrow days. I met him in London, and he brought me a framed photo of it and some beautiful bubble hash that he brought me each day of the conference we did in Wembley Stadium. I puffed Wembley Stadium down hard. And also shout out to Monkey really shout out to Monkey, because from my perspective, I wanted to learn macro photography. I asked Jason King, who was a friend of mine at the time, I was like, hey dude, like you've taken a couple of macro shots. Like, would you mind showing me how to take some macro photographs? He said, oh yeah, no problem. Just as soon as you show me how to design and manufacture bubble bags in Nepal and sell them around the world on the internet. And I was kind of like, oh shit, like was that a bad move on my part? And I kind of, in the end, just took it to the fact that he was maybe being a bit of a dick and being insecure. But when he was taking bug shots on Overgrow, shots of his insects, his praying mantises that he would order from the mail order, and crack these eggs and grow these incredible praying mantises out that he would take photographs of that were just shockingly beautiful. And he had the MPE lens, and I hit him up one day and I was like, hey, I want to get into macro photography. He's like, okay, buy the 65 millimeter MPE lens with the 24 EX MT dual flash from Canon, set your ISO on 100, he starts telling me all these settings as a base. And since he did that, I have always shared I don't even feel like I always feel like I'm sharing his information, that it's just like, pass it all on. Even though at this point, it's like 15 years of my own knowledge that I've learned from taking macro photography. I just don't see why it would be a bummer for me to show people. Like, there are people who will put time into this in a way that I don't have the time anymore. There are people who will put time and have access to certain things, whether it's exotic looking plants or beautiful resins. That's the key. Yeah. It's one thing if you want to take macro photographies of resin. It's another, like, do you have all the top quality access to, the highest grade material? Because that becomes the super duper key. These lovebirds looking at each other about their beautiful resins. They're staring into each other's eyes. They're like loving the fact that they got all the flavors. They're like oozing and goozing. Good on you guys.
The other thing, Marcus, is, each photographer is going to bring a different point of view. Like I was inspired by people like Tobin Yellen and like even Bruce Weber shooting like weird black and white fashion photography. And, the ideas that you can, bring to the subject is really kind of really broad, and just like cultivation and extraction, there's a lot of creativity that you can bring to it. So
I also got to shout out Joep Dumas. He was taking photos in the 80s in Holland with the electron scan microscope. When I went to the first Cannabis Cup, my first Cannabis Cup, not the first Cannabis Cup, was in 1995. And I saw his little postcards. He had them at all these different sort of smart shops. And I would buy these beautiful, perfect trichome shots. They would look so surreal. And if many of you remember, my first advertisement in cannabis culture for bubble bags was a photo that I purchased off of Joep. I remember I was so blown away that he was willing to sell it for 800 guilders. I was just like, it's my photo? He's like, it's your photo. Like, you buy this photo, it's yours. You can put it on shirts, you can tattoo it on your face, you can like do whatever you want with it. So what I did is I took a full page ad out in Cannabis Culture. I had one of my customers at the time from Overgrow be like, hey, let me do let me create some cartoons on the trichome. I'm like, yeah, I want some like heady people like climbing up the side of it with bags hanging off their sides. And I want them to have pickaxes and be chipping away at the head and little chunks of bubble flying everywhere. And that was my first ad for bubble bags in Cannabis Culture magazine. And it was Joop Dumas's photo in 1995 that I first saw. I didn't take my first macro photograph till 2008 to give you an idea how far ahead of his time he was. So shout out to Joop. That's Joop Dumas, Dumas, if you guys want to kind of look him up and see what he's into.
Also, really stoked about Chris from Candid Kush. He's been taking some really awesome shots and staying with Caitlin and Ed from the Pot Snobcast. They're really doing a cool podcast, and they have built a beautiful tasting room in Mendocino, northern Mendocino, Caitlin and Ed, and been doing some really, really cool stuff. So anyone should check out Candid Kush and the work that he's doing. And it's just amazing to see like a far away nug shot where it's spinning and then it goes in and then in farther and farther all the way into like the heads, from a far away shot. It's like, shit, that's fucking such a killer.
I think Eric might have been the first one to start doing that. I could be wrong, but I think it was.
Yeah, he was in there for sure.
Yeah, I remember seeing it too and being like, this is spectacular. Like absolutely crushing. Yeah, no, I love these guys doing all this great stuff with macro photographs. And Alice has inspired me to put a list together. If you guys have, want to send me a private message with some names, and I'll check out the photography and I'll get a nice like 10 to 12 person group. Think about it. It's never been done. Those guys have never gathered in one spot. And who knows, maybe life's changed. Maybe they're not going to want to share their information as readily as they once did, but maybe they do. And maybe it is a real special show, particularly in the sense that it turns into a lot of other people being inspired. Like, I don't get the idea of like, if the whole thing is to pass the flame and like some little spark starts it over here and then that gets passed over to here and it finally makes it to you. Like, do you really want to put that shit out before you pass it on to the next person or hoard it and, burn your whole interior down? Like, I think you're just supposed to have it for a while and then share it. At least that's how it feels to me.
Yeah, I don't believe in hoarding information. I believe in the message, like
free up the vibes.
I'd teach everybody how to use a rail system, how to use focus, push and pull. I'd also teach them lighting, and I think it would really, really, I don't know, Marcus, I think that would be a really cool show to go through, what it means to shoot. It's
totally. It's a specialty as much as it is growing and growing with organic soils and hash making. Like, it is a very specialized thing. One thing about cannabis is that it has definitely got me over the years to have to learn an enormous amount just to learn about it and to be able to share it. Now I'm a photographer. Now I'm a macro photographer. Now I'm a videographer. Now I'm an editor. Now I'm it's just like one thing after the other that you have to learn. Now I'm doing like podcasts and live streaming and I got to learn that. Like, it's just one thing. These things are like, you don't learn them overnight. They take a good amount of investment in time. So I do agree with Michael Pollan when he wrote I don't even know if he wrote this in the Botany of Desire, but he definitely spoke about it maybe in a podcast in regards to how successful cannabis, if you considered cannabis as a virus, like the same way like cordyceps can infect an insect, control that insect's brain, move it to the top of a tree. So when the spores fruit and blow out, they get a greater distance. Cannabis is truly the cordyceps plant to humans, to some of us anyway, because it gets in and then it literally is like, I should grow lots of cannabis. I should make lots of hash from the cannabis that I grow. I should do shows on YouTube telling people about the cannabis that I grow and the hash that I make and how great it is and that they should do it. And I should do shows on photography on cannabis and hash and how great it is to photograph. And it's really quite something how deep it's rooted in some of our brains. It's
sounds like church.
And that's what makes it a true master plant. That's why it's a master plant. And that's why plant medicine is so important to us. Hey, I want to put one up in the air to my man, Martin, out in Ireland. hemp in Ireland, amazing person out there. He just had, some put his aunt, to rest, and I just want to give him special love. Big shout out to my man Martin. He's taking dabs and taking hits with us. He's holding it down in the UK, building an amazing family, really into just glass and just making things happen. So lots of love to you, Martin. Big love. Take care of yourself. Put one in the air.
Shout out to Martin.
I'll shout out to Martin too. I met him at in Barcelona. Great cat, very educated, really spreading the word, doing the right thing. I'm sorry to hear. My deepest condolences, mon frere, and wish you nothing but the best in love.
I feel like I must know Martin as well, so I'll give him a shout out.
Yeah, no, you do. He's mentioned meeting you before, and
nice.
He's our Dragonfly ambassador out in Europe, and along with the Green Grass Connection, Edelgreen Swiss Farm, the regenerative hemp farm out in Switzerland, Thomas and all those guys out there. Big love to those guys as well. Also Thailand. I know there's a bunch of family out in Thailand that watch us too, so big love to the Thai fam and everyone out there.
Shout out to everyone. Shout out to D420K, who was in the chat for a little while. He might still be in the chat, giving respect to everyone on the panel. And yeah, absolutely. I'll put a little dab in the banger.
Giving thanks for this lime pop. This lime pop coming from Dave.
I got that too.
Nice. Got the lime pop from Dave.
87?
Yeah. 87 lime pop going down. Woo!
Big shout out to Gene. Big shout out to Gene from Mean Gene.
Big shout out to Gene. Big shout out to Nick out in Michigan. Nick Risden and the Lime Rising. Amazing people. They were growing one of their best crops ever this year. Had a 18, almost 20-foot tall plant, and saddest thing in the world, they went to go have their dog's leg amputated, and they came back and their whole crop was fucking ripped off. A good portion of all of his weed was jacked in his yard, and they're the hard. I mean, I'm not going to say they're the hardest working people out there because everyone's working so hard, but it's just huge heart and soul in that family. To big love to the dad, everyone who was there. So, anyone who wants to help any of the people in the fires, anyone that wants to help Nick Risden and Lime Rising, reach out to us later. Reach out to us on our Instagram, and we can pass the links. Maybe Marcus, will send you as many links as we know, like Brett from Dos Perros and maybe Sheldon and different people that we know that have lost their farm. We could put those links in this YouTube video for people to check out, like GoFundMe's and things that are people using to build their life again, because people have lost everything and whatnot. So anyway, a lot of people want to help. This is a year where we've helped more people than ever, as a community. It just seems like not every so often it comes up, and all of a sudden, we got to put it out there. So let's not feel like we've helped people too much. We might all as a group have to continue helping people. So, let's all put ourselves out there and reach out to people in need. There's a good group of people in need right now. So
well said.
Dude, fucking rippers. Like, wow, what an absolute piece of shit, low-level thing to do, to steal someone's hard work like that and their livelihood. Medicine.
Yeah. It's,
and
unfortunately, it happens everywhere.
It does. In the case of Nick Risden, he makes RSO or cannabis oil for himself to fight Lyme's disease, and he's truly keeping himself alive. He would be a good person to have on this show sometime, because he's just so knowledgeable about strains and medicine and what it takes to survive. He just recently had a, crazy skin-eating bacteria and things, but he's making it through a lot of stuff. So big love to him.
Lyme's is a really serious. I've had Lyme's twice, and it doesn't go away. But when you get bit twice, it's pretty serious the second time around. It's really intense. So I feel for
He's
him.
a true warrior, indeed, also. And you too, probably, for having that. And there's one thing I just took a dab to, and since you guys are saying some stuff, I just want to shine a light on the subject too, because I think we talked a lot about the fires in California and in the West Coast and all over United States and Canada today. But there are big, huge fires happening in Brazil right now too. A bit different than here because it's not natural fires. They're all criminal fires and in the highest biodiversity places in Brazil. So I just wanted to send some love, take this dab. A bunch of animals have died. A bunch of animals have burned. What was burned right now in the last month was over what was burned in the last 20 years total. So it was very crazy what happened. So I just wanted to shine some love over there for everyone that is here and everyone that is watching it too. If anyone's taking a dab, smoking a joint, just send some love, and to all the spirits of the fires and the winds have mercy on all of us and just help us out. So just wanted to shine a light on that too, and just took a dab. I wanted to offer this dab.
Very well
Cheers.
said. That's heavy. When you think of David Attenborough's quote about 94% of all mammalian life on Earth is humans and the livestock that they cultivate, and the other 4% are all the zebras and lions and wild animals that live out in the forest. 4%. Think of how insane that is. And when you have fires of this size and that many animals are dying, that could literally be 0.5% of the 4%, 20% of all animal life on Earth. I don't think people really understand the impact that something like that can have. We've already, messed things up to the point where cows are taking up all of the space that wild animals used to take up. It's pretty messed up. That's insane.
Yeah.
In Brazil, that's what's going on, Marcus. That's exactly it. They burn all the land so they can either plant soy to feed cows or just to have cows over there. It's
of course
a totally criminal action. It's a direct result from a lack of state that we have, and from everyone political being careful with our environment. And it's just very, very, very sad. It's not even Mother Nature, it's a land that it's not usually burned. So when it burns, it burns. It's not like it rebuilds, because it's
and think of what's fueling that. What's fueling that is human beings' desires to consume flesh. How about that for a thought?
Yep.
That's an insatiable appetite. There's just, you never want to stop eating it. It's you can't make enough burgers. You can't feed enough of the world's grain supply and enough of the clean water. Just give it to the cows, give them the rainforest, kill everything else, cut everything else down. I need my burgers. Fuck.
Yep.
Whew.
Yeah, it is. So let's all shine some love.
So I have a picture. I have a picture of these rotting birch logs behind me because we're putting these in the earth and growing weed on top of them at a friend's, some family in here in the Kootenays, building a new farm and creating, hugel culture and putting the logs in the earth so they can last. Because all these fires just burn up everything and it goes into the atmosphere. It's gone forever. It doesn't become microbes. It doesn't become long life forever. And, I just, again, want to encourage people to put wood in the earth and sequester the carbon for as long as possible in the earth. And, it's crazy what's happening with fires. In the case of Southern Oregon and Medford, it's amazing. I really feel for the Rogue Valley. I mean, the fire ripped through an urban area, like you were talking, Wade, like Paradise. I mean, we're talking from Ashland all the way through to Medford, 10 miles of all towns, Phoenix and Talent. I mean, massive 3,000 homes. I think that's right. Some thousands of homes were taken out down there. And in Takilma in Southern Oregon, they really mobilized as a community and really did a great job of protecting their community from the fire from Happy Camp that was coming over. So incredible mobilizations have happened from people. So, it's pretty powerful. And I know Wendy from Sunibus obviously couldn't make it today. Oh, I thought she is going to come on. She was going to talk about ash mitigation on the flower. And I guess we're going to try and send her a link to get her on right now. So, there was people that had the fire within a half a mile of their house, just blazing, crowning, just dropping the shit on their house and stuff. So, and these are people with, a good amount of weed out there. So, there's anyone who has any information on ash mitigation. Colin, have you ever had to deal with that, or do you know anyone since you're on right now?
Yeah, so I have some friends that are out there. Everyone's using blowers. You don't want to wet your plants down ever. You really want to refrain from doing that. You just want to go out there and try to keep it dry. If you can put some hoops up, try to put some hoops up, but don't put anything that's flammable, because that could cause other problems. You just got to be diligent and be on it and be patient and really, keep airflow as much as you can. I've heard 2 friends are putting fans out there with Jennies to try to get airflow through the rows to try to just help mitigate things, and just doing your best. But in terms of just ash mitigation, it's just blowers and fans.
And if you're in a greenhouse too, you can, if you have the ability to run power to it, use maybe a carbon filter and a fan so that the air you're pushing in is clean and you have positive pressure in the greenhouse, so you're not drawing ash into the greenhouse.
Yeah.
But for full terms, that's just tough.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why we grow in greenhouses here in this area, is not only from rain and all that, but if you're concerned about chemtrails or things, even metals from the sky, you can. I also totally agree with growing outdoors under the sun, but there's a lot of reasons, more and more, to have a cover. I think it's even possible with outdoors is to put a shade cloth. I know you don't want to shade your plants when it's already smoky, but some type of cloth that can go over the top of your plants that can stop ash from falling on it could be really useful. You could use tea stakes if they, with bamboo on the top, and then put, even just a horizontal cloth over your plants. And maybe you'd only have to do that for a week when the ash is really falling heavy. In the case of Oregon, they had a really heavy duty rainstorm right on the tail of all those heavy. So they had that week of million acres burn type thing, and then got a heavy rainstorm on it. Maybe in the case of rain, potentially that could actually wash it through rather than just turn it to mud. And I haven't had too many conversations with people that have reported anything negative from that rainstorm. But maybe if you're trying to wash it with like a spray or a hose, it's a lot different. But I guess with nature, with the rains, I think in this case, it may have actually done okay. But
that's really good to hear.
Hopefully Wendy can. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause that carbon, I don't know. I think Dr. Mark could probably talk about, Mark, you could probably chime in on what ash might or might not do a bit more chemically than anyone here.
I think it's just
and Kelly's going to come on in a second.
It's going to flavor the plants, right? It's just going to give it like a smoky flavor. And I think I remember when we had fires a couple of years ago, we had some people on Hash Church who were discussing smoky flavor in some of the extracts and water hash. Who was that, Marcus? So I'm trying to remember. This may have been like about 2 or 3 years ago on Hash Church, and there were fires, and we were talking about this very issue and whether or not it comes through in extracts. Again, you could probably clean it out of the distillate. That's probably not.
I think that's the only way, honestly. I've never seen it come out any other way. It's totally ruins
Marcus,
hash.
do you remember who we had on that we were talking to this about? Do you remember this?
Not off the top of my head. There's been so many people that have been on over the years. Like we probably are over 100 different people.
Yeah, I seem to remember that what we were talking about again is that, again, a lot of folks who grow not necessarily for oil markets or for extraction, who grow for flower markets, were saying, hey, we can't sell our flower. Can we extract it? And there was a whole surge of, again, people wanting to actually get into extraction just because they had to, do something to recoup the material that they lost because of the fire. And there was a bunch of smoky material on the open market back then. I probably take it that there will be again this time. And it'll be interesting to see if some of these folks who track it, who track like wholesale index prices, like cannabis benchmarks, for one. I'm sure ATN, you know about cannabis benchmarks, right? So what they do is that's a website that basically based on large transactions with large licensed dispensaries, they're able to track the wholesale price of cannabis flower. And what you see is in these kinds of cases, again, supply-demand economics work where, again, if there's a constant supply and all of a sudden the supply tightens up or it doesn't smell as good and then people are now extracting, you're going to see fluctuations. But typically what they do is they follow things like outdoor, differentiate outdoor from light depth and, indoor, and look at the various wholesale prices. And typically those numbers, right, 18 are always around like anywhere between $1,200 to $1,300 a pound to as much as $1,500 a pound. And they move a little bit, right? But, right.
It fluctuates. It's going to go up slightly this year, because of fires and also local regionalizations and market stabilizing. But also just because of, here in California, we're still overtaxed. How's it going there in PA?
It's still, our governor wants to do legalization, and legalization's on the ballot in New Jersey. And it seems like there's going to be just this domino effect between New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and New York, and that legalization is just right around the corner. And, the product in the dispensary, 18, to tell you the truth, is pretty good and comparable in terms of pricing of like what you'd almost get on the black market. Certainly black market is still alive and plentiful all throughout the East Coast. Black market in New York is still, it's even when legalization happens, I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon.
Hey, can we use the term? Can we use the term illicit market? We're trying to change, as opposed to using the term black market.
What about traditional market?
Yes, really traditional market is what I use.
Traditional market.
Regulated free market.
I like traditional market. It seems fine.
Y'all know what I mean. But I think an interesting trend, and ATN, you could probably speak to this, is in California. My son's out in LA now, and he goes to dispensaries now, and he's in the industry extracting. So he's seeing a little bit of this dynamic in the marketplace, which is the popularity of beverages. He says that people are going to dispensaries and buying beverages by the cases, like these fruity, limey, whatever beverages. I think there's all kinds of new products that are out there in the market. But I guess that being a new category, and again, not something necessarily you can make at home, right? Unless you're making your own soda or taking an extract. And I don't know, it would be interesting to see if you can take like an extract that you could buy at a dispensary and use like one of those home soda makers and try to make a carbonated beverage with your own cannabinoid. I don't know if that would work, but
why wouldn't it? Everything we made is created by, was created by patients for patients originally. So, but yes, there is an uptake. There's an uptake in edibles, period, in the COVID era. People were, we had the Evoli problem with the cartridges. So cartridges have dips. They're starting to come back, but, flowers and definitely edibles and concentrates too. People have a lot of time to sit around, apparently. So we've seen an uptick definitely in the quality as well of the rosin we've had access to, and natural extractions, as well as the extracted products are definitely getting better. The quality of the flower is still not to where I want it to be for the price point. I still think it's about 2 price points higher than it should be compared to when I was actually dealing internally of selection, et cetera. So I thought the market corrected itself better in Nevada. And California, it's still too production-y for my expectation. There are some quality craft growers, but this is the problem with the fires. The craft growers are the ones that are being hit very hard, whereas opposed to most of the indoor production is going on without any type of problem. But the exotic outdoors, fuck, man, it pisses me off. It's challenging and painful to see the loss, because one of my main suppliers, like I said, Foxworthy Farm, Martin and them lost access or had problems prior. They were able to save some and get some out as the fires were encroaching, but have to see how it's harvested and, dried to see exactly the quality of what it'll be. So a lot of people are dealing with this reality right now, and it's frustrating and it's sad to see. On top of that, fire season ain't over. We're still in the midst of it here. So, blessings to everybody and to all of you. Stay safe, stay sound, stay wet as much as possible. Keep it damp out there.
You were talking about markets. I just wanted to say black markets matter.
Black line.
Oh, that is so not
Could be
not
too
correct.
soon. Could be too soon.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the one thing that's for sure is that there's a lot more processing capability today than just simply like 2 or 3 years ago. So that processing capability, see, the dog agrees with me. That processing capability means that there's now people who are doing toll processing in cannabis. So you can grow cannabis legally. You can bring it to a whole processor and they can make oil for you. So that's kind of cool. The other thing is that, in hemp, we were talking a little bit about this before, that bill that's in Congress right now, which is the 8178, I think, which is the thing that's going to basically regulate CBD as a dietary supplement. This just totally needs to happen, because right now the painful thing that Epidiolex has done is it puts CBD on a list of being an active ingredient of an FDA-approved drug. And you can't put active ingredients in food or cosmetics or dog food. So what's going to enable that is this thing that I pulled up the thing just on my computer for a second now. Was the act that's currently in, I think it's called 8178. It's either Blumauer or the other guy from Oregon who's basically put this thing forward. Supposedly, even Mitch McConnell wants this to happen. So again, that's sort of like the gate, unfortunately, in our government of whether or not things are actually going to get voted on, is the head guy in the Senate has to be okay with it to bring it to the floor for a vote. Supposedly they have bipartisan support of this, but what this is going to do is this is going to carve CBD out of the process that you were talking about before, the IND process, which is an investigational new drug thing with the FDA. They want to carve it out and put it into the dietary supplement thing, kind of like the Qnol or the vitamin C or the other things that you could extract from plants, put it into a capsule. Or how about that shit Prevagen? What the fuck is that, right? Some thing from a jellyfish. They extract jellyfish, put it into a capsule, give it to senior citizens, and now it all of a sudden improves their memory. I mean, what the fuck is that? Prevagen, right? So, that's the category that CBD and tobacco actually all belong in, or maybe not tobacco, but
Well, what do you think of that interim rule the DEA did recently on the hemp farm bill? And the way it kind of opens up for GW, because there's a thing in there that says anyone with FDA approved products will no longer have to have permits or licensing for import or export. I'm like, listen, these guys are getting ready to clear the board.
Okay, so what the interim final ruling is an attempt by the DEA to harmonize the Controlled Dangerous Substance Act with the American Agriculture Improvement Act, aka the Farm Bill, right? So the Farm Bill basically says if it's below 0.3 THC in the plant, it's legal, it's hemp, high five, go grow your hemp, right? They forgot that as soon as you buck those hemp plants and you take not the entire plant at 0.3, now you take the more potent parts of the plant. As soon as you trim it, to extract it, to distill it, to isolate it.
Oh, way over.
Yeah, well, except the isolate, if you're talking about CBD isolation portion, but the dirty secret is again, we talked about this on Hash Church a couple times. At 0.3% in a typical yield of these high yielding varieties like Lifter and Cherry Wine and whatnot, Box and all those, on a typical yield of an acre of hemp, if you grow like a drug variety in a drug variety kind of way, that's almost like 5 pounds of THC per acre. It's a lot of THC, right?
That's what I'm saying, man.
It's a lot. Right?
Yeah.
And so they never, the intellectual furnaces weren't burning hard enough to realize that, well, even if we regulate this stuff and put this stuff as 0.3 in the plant, that every step along the way, until you're in the diluted, tincture. Obviously, the diluted tincture is back down to 0.3 or whatever it was in the plant. But everything along the way, which is called work in progress hemp extract, is all basically illegal just based on the amount of THC. And the whole Delta 8.
Not only that, Mark, but the truth of it is, if you have a high CBD variety that's over 10%, the odds are it's hot if you let it mature, because CBD synthases produce about a 25-to-1 ratio of THC.
Yeah. Sam, I was in a field yesterday, just right down the road here in Maryland, that's growing a high CBG variety of something called Lifter, and there is no THC in that variety at all. Zero, none, zilch.
I can second that, Mark.
Right.
We have varieties.
It's got about 1 or 2% in dry weight. It's got about 1 or 2% CBD, but it's got like about 18% CBGA. So it's completely got all of its synthases shut down, at least after what the geranyl allyl transferal phosphatase, whatever, the thing that puts together CBGA, but all the other synthases that either make CBCA or THCA or CBDA were all basically shut down in that variety. So I'm really interested to see what that's like. I have a small nug of it downstairs. I'm drying it because I want to smoke it. People have asked me, they're like, what's that like when you smoke? No, I don't know. I'll try to see what it's like. I was going to extract
I've smoked CBG. We developed high CBG varieties more than 15 years ago.
Nice. What kind of level? I mean, 15%, that's pretty high, right?
That's pretty high. I agree. And ours also had little to no THC at all. But you don't smoke CBG for recreational purposes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how does it make you feel? Does it make you feel high or relaxed or
not at all? But then I don't like CBD. I don't like CBG. I don't like CBC. None of them get me high, and I don't like them. I smoke to get high, not to get healthy, because I'm already healthy.
Dude, you just crushed COVID out in 24 hours. How about that?
And he's patented it, probably.
Mark, I've been dry sifting some CBG, and it's really a nice resin to work with. It's unlike CBD, where it's very viscous and very low yielding, and typically a lot darker and amber and by nature. It's for some reason.
So what's a full melt dab of that like? I mean, what is that? What
I
is
feel
that?
just, to me, the feeling I get from it when I'm at kind of base level, which I still have Delta 9 in my system. I feel kind of relaxed if I'm really in tune with myself. And I think individuals that are more sensitive to cannabinoids and minor cannabinoids that don't have as much Delta 9 in their system feel a bit more sedated from it. That's what I commonly hear. So there's, it is still very individual, and it's still anecdotal at best right now, how everyone's kind of tapping into it. But I see a lot of promise. It's from the extraction side. I think it's really desirable. I think I'm really curious to see what I can do with some fresh rosin.
Well, we developed it 15 years ago for medicinal use, absolutely. But we tried it for recreational use, and like THC, pure THCV varieties, or CBG varieties, or CBD, or CBC, they don't really have true recreational value. I mean, some people will say CBD calms you down, but that's not getting you ripping high, which is what I.
Well, what about together, Sam? Like, what about all of these major and minor cannabinoids together at various levels? Would you agree that removing one of them would change that experience?
I have not tried them all, but of course, everybody's tried equal mixtures of CBD and THC, because all of the imported sifted hash traditionally was a mixture of THC and CBD.
Sure. There's some arguments out that the cannabinoid synthase, in terms of the entourage effect, this general subject that we kind of touch on, to remove one percentage of, let's say, CBC or CBG from a cultivar profile, which completely reshape the experience of that cultivar. Same thing on the terpene synthase. So I don't know if anyone has any thoughts on that, but it's something that I've been kind of thinking about lately.
I traditionally bred high THC varieties for recreational. Now, when I was interested in medicinal varieties, we created the world's first CBD only variety. The same thing with CBC, CBG, THCV. We did all those, but they were not for recreational use. They were for medicinal use.
I use a full cannabinoid spectrum. So I mix all my water concentrates together and sieves, and then I put all my BHOs, et cetera, together and mix them, because for me, that's worked for me, is a full spectrum. If I try one thing, I get a little bit of this. I try something else, get a little bit of this. So for over a decade, personally, I've just mixed it all together into, and keep adding to it like an everlasting gobstopper. So
that sounds like full spectrums.
Plural, yes, yeah, but that works for me because I have access to. But because some people can find a certain flower specifically works for them. I have, because of my Gulf War syndrome, I have various different symptoms, from nerve damage to nausea to migraines to different situations. So each one sort of matters. So combining the ensemble effect of them all allows me to be productive and allows me to be a part of society.
Hey, Jeff,
that's how I feel.
What did you smoke in the 60s and the 70s before there were the minor cannabinoid varieties?
I was hanging out in my mom's ovaries. We're having a great time. Me and the other eggs. We were all like, sup. No, I didn't.
Hey, Sam. You're old.
It's just for me. Yeah. I mean, I didn't get turned on till I was, 18, 19. So, and I didn't really get turned on to real concentrates until I was out here in California in my early 20s. So, I mean, your experience, you were well into it way before. It's just, this is what I found over time for me during the access, because early on in Oaksterdam, I was able to get a lot of quality water hash. Too, I had the original machine from working at the Galaxy Gallery back in the late 90s. So I was making my own water hash, and people were contracting with me to make their water hash for them because they'd never seen a machine that could make quality hash like this that bubbled. I mean, that blew our minds, you know? So I just would initially just take scrapings off of the coffee filters and then mix them together in a coffee grinder. And that's what started it for me. And so
but
I have
honestly,
you're way ahead of us by decades.
You didn't know what cannabinoids you were smoking because until, when was it, 1990 or no, wait, till 2000, there was not analytical labs available in California.
And Sam, when do you think the first analytics really were for cannabinoids? You know, because you're touching on this idea that
people like Dr. Osole have been doing this for decades and decades. We began our work in the very early 1990s, where we got an analytical lab, which was, we checked with Dr. Brenneisen with the same sample to Dr. Brenneisen and Dr. Osole and our lab, and we got identical results, and we knew we were doing it right.
And who was running that lab, Sam? Like, was Dave Pate the main chemist there?
Correct. He was the chemist that was hired to do all this work. Correct.
So at that time, you guys were really kind of forward. You know, this is really great because it's, you know, the stuff I look at every day, you know, is probably on the shoulders of the work that you and your team was doing, you know, in terms of the analytics. So, you know, what we're looking at in terms of the microbial test is really kind of, I would still say, kind of very limiting in terms of what we're able to see and test for. Would you kind of agree?
Yeah, our focus was not that, to be honest. We were growing organically, and we didn't worry about it because we were not selling it. But that said, I mean, the truth of it was nobody had minor cannabinoids. Nobody knew what they were. And if your variety happened to have some in it, you didn't know it.
Right. So, yeah, that's why. Yeah, right. So what varieties do you think what regions of the world in terms of the, you know, where things kind of stemmed from post Ice Age, do you think a lot of these miners were really kind of coming from, or were they really selectively bred?
No, they were all over. When the way we bred high single cannabinoid varieties of a minor cannabinoid was, for example, THCV. I used California orange because it had small amounts in it. I used a Thai variety that had small amounts. I used an Afghan variety that had small amounts. And I used a South African variety that had small amounts of THCV. And then we self those for generations and then combined them all at the end and had a variety that was well over 10% THC with little to no THC.
Right. Wow.
And we did the same thing for all the minor cannabinoids. Took about 4 or 5 years for each one of them, but we were doing a lot of them at the same time.
So you guys went through like a whole you went through several generations. Like you went.
Oh, we went through five years. Generations. Absolutely correct. And everything was analytically analyzed, everything, so that we were able to use the next generation's best of for that targeted compound.
So were you guys able to really track what acid forms were really happening at what times through the process? Did you guys get that granular?
Well, we could. We weren't so interested in that, but yes, we had HPLC and we had GCFD for the terpenes.
Because I think that the thing I'm trying to understand now is how we can track that through certain varieties to phenohunt, and you know, to maximize the most out of a, you know, and you said variety, to get not only the best phenotype but the best chemotype.
Well, my suggestion is grow them organically in the ground. I used a greenhouse, but I lived in Holland. I didn't have a choice. So, they will express the cannabinoid terpene maximum that variety can do. And yeah, I mean, it's not hard to grow excellent weed as long as you don't make stupid mistakes. But we all do.
Yep. Well, that means we shouldn't deforest, Sam. We should take all that and do what Josh was saying, right?
Wait.
Grow organically with it.
Sam, I thought you were perfect. What are you talking about? He who has patented everything. I thought you were the perfect.
Well, I'm so perfect that no, I'm not quite perfect.
Well, I appreciate the information, Sam, and the knowledge. It's you know, it's something where, you know, I'm always trying to pick up on.
Hey, Sam, when were you first
you
turned
asked
on?
about early lab. I would say Dr. Osole, Brenneisen, and Dr. Meshulam and Associates were three of the very, very best. And that's who we emulated and we considered our leaders. And when we got the same results from the same samples as they did, we knew we were doing something right.
Mm-hmm.
When were you first educated on beaver terpenes there, Sam?
The first time I went to Canada, and
I can't help but think Horatio would be smiling knowing we're still talking about beaver terps.
What's funny is that they're actually used in the food and fragrance.
Raspberry, yeah. If you like raspberry
flavoring.
Vanilla, raspberry, bunch of beaver terps.
Yep, the beaver's sitting there in Canada giving us the raspberry.
You know, earlier
Pun
we were
intended.
talking about. I wanted to go back really quickly. Hi, everybody. Sorry.
Hi, Kelly.
I had a million things going on. Hi. Oh my gosh.
Happy to have you.
Good to see you.
Oh, I love all you guys. So awesome to see you.
Kelly,
so
you're like a beacon of light.
I feel the same about you, Mark. Oh, you guys. I was just saying, you know, we were talking about the mitigation of ash, and a lot of small farmers are getting hit. And ATN, you were just saying, you know, sun-grown is getting hit harder than ever. And we really need those small farmers to be successful. It's one of the single most important things that we could do on the planet Earth is to help small organic farmers be successful. And one of the ways that I just wanted to say to everybody out there who's listening, who has a small farm, your success is really important to us. It's important to many of us. And I just was thinking, you know, maybe being done earlier, try to put something in the ground that's going to have all of your crops done, you know, a good portion of it done early, whether that's these beautiful autoflowers that are coming on, you know, some really beautiful trichomes that they're done in early August, or to do light depths, small light depths. So at least part of your crop is going to be finished before the fire season comes on, because it's just really, really important.
One thing I don't like about auto varieties is you can't grab the best clone so easy and use it for years. With olives,
you got to be breeding it for seeds.
And it can be a pain in the butt. Mm-hmm. So it really depends. But I just wanted to mention there's a company up there in Canada called Segra, and they have developed a way to keep mother plants of auto varieties. So anybody who needs their services can check them out.
And also because we've come into the legal market, you know, keeping clones for a lot of sun-grown people is not important. Breeding is absolutely important. Having seeds, direct sowing into the ground. You said it earlier, Sam, you know, direct sowing, deep soil beds are how we're going to reach the ultimate potential of the plants. So we're really encouraging these small farmers to have their own breeding stock that's biologically intelligent to their soils, to their areas, to their zones. And the more that we breed for an early finishing, we can really beat out those fires, and these farmers can have great success.
And the Heart Rock Lion Claw is so dank and filled with flavor, and the buds are super solid, and I mean it's
and the work
and
that's being done.
I mean, in Daniel's case at HORATio, I mean I think he did 140 crosses this year, and he's planning on doing 300 crosses next year. So
and for good breeding,
power to the seed.
And for good breeding, you really do need.
Yeah, and also
you need clones. They're part of the breeding program.
I mean, there's a reason to keep clones. There is.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you have to in the case of like, autoflowers. But there's intention to everything. So if your intention is to do some certain thing with the clone, then
Well, I don't know. I think that we could really have that discussion. I think that that's a really interesting topic, Sam, because when you take clones, you're really starting to mitigate the immune response of that plant. Then you have to take that plant inside. You may have to put it into a pot. It's no longer in a microbial-rich environment. It's no longer in the sunshine.
No,
you can't have it year-round. And I think for small farmers, I think that it's really great for them to continually choose their varietals by using chemotypes. A lot of these farmers now have field tests that they're able to look at their chemotypes out in the field, and they're really able to track what it is that they're looking for, and they're able to do it intelligently. It's just an interesting, if we're going to be just small farmers and we're not just talking about science and we're not just looking at it in a scientific way, but we're get out a good trichome rich crop that can be used out on the market. Breeding seeds is a wonderful opportunity for them. So I just wanted to bring up the other side of that, and not taking clones.
Okay, but I, for example, I maintain my mothers in the ground, 15 feet tall.
Well, I wish I could do that, Sam. I mean, we have some big mothers. We got a whole room of them, but even at a facility, that's a big we change our mothers out more often than that, to try to keep them more vigorous and try to keep the as much vigor and as least pathogen filled as we can, because there's a lot of things that go along.
I didn't have pest and pathogen problems because I use so many biocontrols as preventatives, to be honest.
Yep. Yeah.
Mother lovers.
Hey. So Sam, Kelly, I think, it's an interesting topic because I think about a lot of these things, and, when you're talking about saving seed and saving varieties, Sam, wouldn't you agree it's good to save the seeds and save those potential new phenotypes and chemotypes that you could get from, starting offspring, from bringing things together that, you may have hand selected, even though it might not be 2,000 or 5,000 of each to keep the gene pool, as we say. I think it's a good thing. I think I've kept clones for 22 years, 24 years actually. But I also still start new seeds
without a problem.
Yeah. Right. So, but I've also started new seeds, and I also recognize the value, especially now that I'm growing at scale for commercial reasons. We're starting like all types of different varieties, and I'm seeing some really interesting things that I would have never thought as a younger self to even try or attempt to do, because I just have these clones that I just know so well.
To be honest, I think the closest agricultural crop similarity-wise is strawberries. When you want a new strawberry variety, you cross a bunch of different varieties that wild or whatever that have the traits you're after. Then they grow out 20,000 seeds, and they select the 10 or 20 that are the most favorable, and then they reproduce runners from those mother clones, and they eventually have millions of runners to use as a production crop. And that's the way cannabis is.
Sure. And I think to Kelly's point, I think that's, I think it's a good thing to, I don't know, personally, I think it's a good thing to be exploring and understanding, what different varieties could do together, because, it's expansive in terms of the creative aspect of it.
It's natural evolution. I mean, without that, the clone never changes. So obviously you're going to be doing seed breeding, but it's fun to keep like a sour diesel forever, for example. You know what I mean? Like, who doesn't want to grow a whole entire greenhouse of sour diesel? Like, come on.
Right. And the recessive traits always come up when you breed with it. So it's really difficult to recreate. And that's the other thing for me that I'm interested in, is trying to work with the dominant traits on some of these really elite things that I have. And, it's fun to try to see what other offspring can kind of do. I think Marcus and I were talking to a friend of his the other day. He was or a little while ago on a chat, and he was talking about using the Sky Jarrow from Mijin to breed with his other crop, because it was so non-invasive. So it really brought the dominant traits out in the parent stock that he was using. So that, I think there's a lot of value to that.
Yeah, and it is true. Oh, sorry, Sam, go ahead.
I keep clones for breeding and for production, but I every year grow the majority of the plants from seed, because that's where the new exciting shit is.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's a lot like an apple tree. You can have this beautiful, gorgeous apple tree, and it's the best apples ever. And you can take the seeds off of that apple tree, and you're never going to be able to recreate that same apple tree. So when you do, breed with that clone or whatever, it's never going to be the same. So there is some beauty in the sour diesel being held forever, or that Jack Hare that is in Eugene. I'm so stoked that people are holding on to that.
With apples,
or the Cavendish banana.
They graft them because you can graft a mother onto 1 billion different grafts, and you get a branch of that unique apple. So there's easy ways to maintain apples forever.
Mm-hmm.
Resin Ranch, what's up in the house?
What's
down
up
there?
How you feeling? Just stopping by, and Alice was like, "Hey, you want to say hi?" How you guys all doing?
Good, man. How are you doing? I like the shirt.
We're surviving.
Are you?
Yeah, we're getting pretty impacted by the fires. We've been
by the August complex fire in your area,
or fire is been smoking out the farm. Yeah, down here in Sebastopol, we've pretty much been flanked by fires all summer. So it's been
totally.
I feel like it's starting to take a toll on my health at this point.
Yeah, I wanted to come on, and that's what I wanted to talk about today, really quickly. I didn't know if this was the right time to do that, but just about, how we can, mitigate some of the toxic intake of the smoke and the ash. We've been really focused on our plants, because our plants is our income, our plants is our future, but also our health and well-being is also our future, and how we're going to, make our next decisions and how we're going to move forward. We really need to be healthy. And I just wanted to talk about a few things that people could be allying with down there. So, let's talk about that. Is this a good time? Are we cool to come on in?
I got nothing going on. And
cool. Awesome. I just wanted, if you wanted to come in and talk about some updates that were really important that people need to know in the region and area first, or
updates. It's kind of hard to stay up with. I just tell anybody, get on the CAL FIRE website, because it's changing. Some days it changes hourly. The August complex fire is definitely taking a major toll on the cannabis industry in Humboldt and Mendo this year. I think more than any previous year. Definitely more farms actually burning than just being impacted by ash and smoke. I don't want to get into the stories I'm hearing about how CAL FIRE is treating the situation up there on some properties. It's just messed up. That's all there is to it. And I think it's pretty eye-opening. Most of the people in the room, I think, would agree with me that as human beings, we need to open our eyes up to what's going on and make some serious changes.
And be aware.
As human beings, we can't live like this. You know, it's kind of the thing I was thinking about the other day. I remember a Discovery Channel show on the end of the world and them talking about climate change and massive fires in the West that would burn uncontrolled and air quality. And I remember thinking, oh man, that sounds horrible, but that probably won't happen in my lifetime. And here we are living it. So like the last 2 weeks, I pretty much have had a low-grade headache the whole time, really low on energy. And when we looked into that, they call it a carbon headache, apparently, from inhaling so much smoke. And like you said, yeah, we all worry about our plants because it's our income. And I definitely have put myself in some situations this year that probably put my health on the line in order to salvage the cannabis, which I'm not sure how I feel about that personally at this point. Which is, you know, we always, you know, we hold this plant so high and we do so much for it, and when it's your income, it is hard to make that call that I need to walk away. Like, it's not easy.
And you were faced with that this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've been faced with it more than once.
Yeah.
And then I have, you know, a farm I consult on that is up on Spy Rock, which is now starting to be evacuated.
Really?
We've been in evacuation warning for a while. I don't think Spy Rock's it's going to actually get to that point, but we've said that a few times, and it's crossed the eel. They didn't think that was going to happen, you know, so fingers crossed.
Spy Rock.
Yeah. Well, that carbon headache that you're feeling is just massive inhalation of smoke. And what happens is there's a restriction of the capillaries in the body because the body starts to react to such a massive change in the environment. We are so much a part of our environment. Like, the earth resonates at a 7.82 or something like that. Don't quote me on the same numbers, but you know, that Schumann's resonance, and our bodies resonate on the same exact, frequency. So when there's like a whole lot of smoke and fire in the air, not only is there a whole lot of smoke and fire in the air, but the actual resonance of the vibration of the area and the zone that you're in actually changes. So it's incredibly detrimental to us on lots of different levels. So not only are we getting smoke inhalation, but the resonance is changing, and we need to be dealing with mental health issues. You know, a lot of people are like, whoa, another day of smoke. Not only is it that we're in COVID and that people are having restrictions all over the place, but we're dealing with the lack of sunshine, ash and smoke, and also the resonance changing. So in order to take care of your internal health, allying with OSHA right now. OSHA root is so important. You can get it in tincture. You can get it in and it's found in the hills of California. Some people call it bear grass. You can OSHA, and that's something that we can really find in a lot of zones and regions. Also, any kind of immune stimulants. Echinacea right now is being dug up. I can't say, more than ever, this is a time to really look at our farms, look at our little gardens, and what haven't we planted? Do we have burdock root? Really good for cleaning the blood right now. Also activated charcoal, taking a lot of activated charcoal, because when you're breathing in these toxins, it's actually being lodged into different areas of your body, and activated charcoal can help wash it out. And and bentonite clay is another one. Zeolite clay, even more activated, more charged, easy to find. And also, your indigenous microorganisms, however you all are, making indigenous microorganisms for your plants. Make sure that you're drinking a little bit of your EM, a little bit of your lactic acid bacteria culture, your sauerkraut water, your kimchi, all of those things that are going to boost our microbiome is incredibly important right now. And what I wanted to save last is the most important is water. We have to be drinking water. You have to be drinking more water than you even think that your body can be handling right now. Even when your belly is full of water, you have to be drinking more water, because just like the plants and in the air, all of the ash is taking all of those humidity particles out of the air, and it's causing an incredible dehydration in the air and in our body. And when we have dehydration, all that does is exacerbate all of the other maladies that we might be holding on to, which is absolutely the same as our mental health. So if we're already on the edge of not feeling so well, we get dehydrated, it's over, it's done. We're in a hole of depression or not feeling well. So really important, drinking water and opening up our hearts right now to compassion for those people that are really needing help. I think as human beings, we are here on this planet to be a collective consciousness. And now more than ever, we need to recognize that a part of our planet is really hurting right now. So whenever we can, those people who aren't on the West Coast, send good vibes to the West Coast. Send good vibes to our brothers and sisters that are out there. It's meaningful. Prayer matters, so.
People on the West Coast feel like they're getting burned out right now. I mean, I think you may be talking about that, Todd, and whatnot.
Yeah, but it's, that's kind of the other thing is the stress level that I know I'm operating at, and I can imagine that everybody else in my position is operating at this year, on top of it just being 2020. And all the other crap going on it's pretty insane that I've actually gotten comfortable operating at this stress level. It kind of scares me. And yeah, it's just this year more than others has me rethinking things. Like when I first hopped in, Alice said you guys were talking about, starting earlier, different times, all that stuff. I was just talking about that the other week, that it totally has me rethinking how I want to run the gardens. And do that, I don't think I'm going to even attempt a second dep next year.
Yeah, diversify and really make use of your product.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's hard for me to pull off a second dep in my spot just as it is, and then add stuff like we flipped the hoops. The fire happened the next day. We didn't see the sun for 3 weeks. My plants went through the roof. Node spacing is like a foot apart. It's it's and the full terms do all right because they got to set up earlier in the year before fire season. They seem to handle it a lot better. They don't seem to get smoke damage as easy because they've already kind of coaled it up.
Yeah.
Back to more full terms, more seed starts, less deps.
Yeah.
And here we are, we're allying with a plant that's an adaptogen. And we, as cannabis farmers, a lot of us who have been in this for a long time have been really adaptogenic to laws, to regulations, to still trying to get our crop out. So I really encourage us as a community, even though we're feeling really beaten down, we are resilient. We're an incredibly resilient group of people. I've never met a more resilient group of people all over the world. So let's take that resilience and become adaptogens and switch up what we need to so we can still get out the good medicine. And if we need to just have one dep that's even bigger, that's earlier, or, even longer varietals that go even way further, let's also talk about that. We've been talking about finishing earlier, but what about those, really long flowering sativas, thin leaf varietals that go and go and go that aren't really done until the beginning of December. A lot of people in California can be doing, those varietals as well. They're well out of, the fire season. One other thing I wanted to say is that as well as the cannabis is an adaptogen, the other thing to ally with is our medicinal mushrooms. Really important. A lot of people are doing sweet medicinal mushrooms, so incredibly important right now. And also so many people are doing cubensis and really doing a lot of micro dosing. Ann Arbor, Michigan, just legalized or just decriminalized cubensis or any kind of psychedelic plant medicine, which is really awesome. And people who are experiencing depression, a lot of really super low dosing psychedelic mushroom has been really helpful for people too.
And also agarikon and cordyceps are both very supportive to the lungs. So to use Garicon and cordyceps in teas and ingest that is going to be supportive to your lungs.
And turkey tail as well. So, the other thing that I was saying just really quickly is that we were talking with Wade yesterday with Trix and Potent Ponics on his awesome live broadcast that he did all day yesterday.
And today.
Is that cannabis is just such an incredibly intelligent being. We've been working hand in hand with this plant for so long. Its intelligence is ours. Our intelligence is it. I just really believe that those of us who bred 2020 seeds, it's just incredibly important for us to get out that information. This year is so potent. It's so powerful. It's so transformative. We're in this state of new discoveries, and the cannabis plant is also feeling that vibration of us being in the gardens every day. And then those plants that are the seeds that are being bred, then being popped next year, will have all of the intelligence. We'll have maybe even all of the answers to the future remedies that we need. So it's so important to just keep popping those seeds, especially the ones that we made this year. I'll end it.
Yeah, I gotta say, just with you saying about the seeds created this year, all that stuff, the last 2 seasons I kind of got away from kind of what Joey taught me with this big seed start early. They're generally going to be healthier, more bug resistant, and got into a scene that we really had to make money. As you guys know, we need to pay our bills and all that stuff. So we went more to the depth thing. And this year I talked my partner into, hey, let's clear a little area and do some big full terms again. And I got to say, just with all the crap that goes on, I'm fully sold on big seed starts again and starting from seed. And like you say, they have all that knowledge now of this year. And what's that going to be advantageous for us in the future if, the cannabis starts figuring out on its own, hey, I need to finish earlier because it's going to be smoky as hell.
And there's got to be genetic coding on the evolution that says that the cannabis plant has lived through fire in its evolution. Like there's probably important terpenes that come out in it protecting itself from ash. I mean, right, Mark? I mean, there's what terpene
actually, so the one thing I do know is that after a forest fire, what sort of comes out of the ash from the forest, the breaded forest, is there's a compound that fits into a class of compounds called butenolides. And this particular butenolide is actually one that enhances seed germination. And it totally makes sense from a natural perspective point of view. So after a forest fire happens, what happens? There's a whole rebirth in the forest. Well, when it turns out that the compounds that are in the soot are actually the compounds that actually encourage seed germination, it kind of makes sense. It's Mother Nature using her own chemistry set to sort of enhance, the replacement of the forest.
And you get the fireweed.
Yeah, the
fire OG.
Fireweed is the pink plant that grows after forest fires. It's one of the first plants that always comes up. Yeah.
It should be a huge year for morels next spring.
And just because you're bringing that up, which is really odd, is I've found that the cannabis aphid, the bong aphid, the only other plant that they're as interested in as the cannabis plant is the fireweed. Really notice that. Just saying. And also, if we're thinking about the plants mitigating themselves into the next year, what about the idea that they're feeling our energy every time that we're in the gardens and they start mitigating new, chemotypes to be able to help us out in the years coming? I don't know.
I just happened to go through Yellowstone, I think like about 6 to 8 months after they had some very terrible fires there in the early 90s. And I think I was on Dead Tour, so I'm trying to remember what year it was. I want to say it was 92, but it might have been 93. But what I remember is that when you look at the areas of the forest that were scorched by the fire, if you got down on your hands and knees and you looked, there was a whole new forest. You know what I mean? Like everything that was huge and big was now just small. Like all these low to the ground plants were all there, and obviously plants that were living off of the carbon from the soot and all the burnt trees and everything like that. But the forest was just, replenishing itself, and kind of what we were saying before on whether or not it's really climate change, or is this just the cyclic nature that the fire and the burning of the vegetation kind of creates the next soil for the next forest, and it just is this natural cycle. And how unfortunate for us, people like Wade, whose house is like right in the way of this natural process that's been happening for thousands of years. And oh, by the way, now it's inconveniencing humans because we're putting our homes in these beautiful places that this happens to.
That's really true. One important reflection that I've come across this year, we've talked about before, is like living outside of major cities and major, cities are toxic, and when they burn, that ash isn't really it's not good, it's toxic. When cars burn and houses burn and propane tanks go off, that ash is detrimental to us. Forest fire ash isn't so bad. I mean, it is part of our natural process. That ash is carbon. It's going to go in. It's part of our evolution. I think it's part of what we need. With the mass sickness and the pandemic and all of that that's going on is another reason why, cities are, something to be careful of. And another reason where if you can make it work out in the country and live their life, even though there's sicknesses out there, even though there's forest fires, making it through that is a healthier process. And I'm feeling really thankful for my country roots, back to the land decisions right now, even though I know that we are in the forest and anything could happen. I'm still allying with natural compounds, and I'm feeling really healthy from it, and I'm feeling for those people who are not. But as a reflection,
or people that don't have the choice because we've been set up for 100 plus years, 200 years, that now people have their roots in the cities, and that's where now culture is. So that's really important. I guess we just have to see both sides of it.
And cities serve their purpose. I go to cities. Cities are, but I just recognize there's a point of health that comes from living on the land, even with fires burning and things. But
and also smoke travels. You guys, we didn't see the sun up here in BC for over a week, like a week and a half. We had a big orange globe because of all of the fires down in Oregon and California.
And Washington.
So we were
whole
completely
towns burned down in
smoked
Washington
out.
too.
And we didn't really have any fires around us at all, and we couldn't see the bottom of our field. So, just like how our collective consciousness, we are all connected, we're also all connected in this microbiome that we call Earth. So, the smoke that's happening down in California is the smoke that I'm breathing up here. We're all in it together. And we always like to separate ourselves, that we are not in it together, but the smokes and that are happening over in China or over in Siberia that went on forever and ever, of course, are affecting all of us. So,
and it's important to recognize just south of the border, whole towns burnt down, from Spokane to central Washington, all the way through Oregon, all the way through California. I mean, probably close to 7 or 8 million acres have burnt in the last month.
And we got
on the West Coast.
Air in North America up here in Vancouver. I'm not HOratio. You can't see 15 feet in front of you. It's hard to breathe up here. And you're talking about those headaches and stuff like that. I'm starting to really associate the headaches and how I've just been so down the last couple of weeks and stuff. It's hard to breathe out here. I'm in Abbotsford, and it's right now. You look outside. Coming home last night through Manning Park and stuff like that, you can just smell it. Just like it's bad. It is. The smoke is bad up here. So take a lot of the advice you guys are talking about those supplements and stuff like that. I didn't really think about that, but there's definitely a lot of smoke in the air up here. That's for sure.
Kava. You can.
Yeah, we all, a lot of us, we're all allying with cannabis, and it's wonderful. It's a great analgesic. It's very helpful. But, kava kava is a wonderful nervine. It really helps sort of coat the end of our nerves that are sort of frayed, that feeling of feeling frayed. And at the end of your rope, we use that term all the time. I'm at the end of my rope. Well, that's your nerves talking. Your nerves are literally at the end of their rope. So allying with kava kava, and not just smoking cannabis, but also ingesting it. When we ingest it, it's much more of a nervine. It helps coat the end of the nerves. So
and algae.
And miso soup.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, HCN. That's
I used kava kava and miso to get away from my Gulf War syndrome, because I was dealing with a lot overtoxic body. So I studied on what they used in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and that's what they used. They used, especially miso soup, but kava kava I got turned on to as well, and those changed my life. Especially if I have permanent nerve damage. When I have really bad nerve days, kava kava works.
Yeah. Oh, I'd love to hear that, ATM.
Lion's mane and kava.
And also, that's that wonderful aspergillus microbe that is in miso.
Aspergillus oryzae.
Aspergillus oryzae, and we always talk about aspergillus as being the enemy. Well, here is this highly intelligent microbe that really is incredibly helpful. I love that. Thanks for sharing that.
I think a neurotransmitter that actually has kava kava, and now that you're talking about this is a lot of my amino acid papers and stuff back in the day. So I am actually taking that. I just haven't been taking it recently, so I'm going to jump back into the vitamin cupboard, open that thing up, and jump right into what I'm looking for. Thank you for reminding me.
So I'm going to hop in here again quick, since we're talking about fires. And I see comments over here in the comment thing. Is all the Oregon outdoor trash? Is all the Cali weed trash? I don't think so. The first year I moved out here, the first time I went into a dispensary was right after all the fires in Calaveras. And I got to say, every single jar of weed I smelled like smoke. I don't know what happened there that happened, but I've never seen that since. I've seen cannabis completely smoked the hell out and come off the line smelling and tasting just fine. I know a lot of people are going to go into the peroxide and lemon juice and baking soda dips this year. Personally, I'm not sure where I am on how clean the cannabis is coming out of these fires, if it's not treated versus treated, and if it's something that we really need to concern ourselves with, or if it's kind of one of those, you're already combusting something, you're already smoking something that, cannabis has its, positive medical effects, but let's be honest, you are doing damage to your lungs by doing that. What else are we ingesting by smoking that cannabis that is out in those fields? I personally don't feel it's ruined. In 2017 with the Santa Rosa fires, we had stuff that got ash. We had stuff that didn't get ash. We had stuff that had smoke, no smoke, all that. We did multiple different ways of harvesting. We did the dip on some stuff. We didn't do the dip on some stuff. We washed some stuff. We didn't wash some stuff. We had all of that stuff tested. And we had a very clean results come back that year. We had a few, you get the odd ones like, chloroform or whatever, and they tell you just send it back in and retest it, and it came back clean. So I've kind of always been the mode of thinking that it's not doing as much damage, I think, as the end consumer kind of thinks. They all just think barbecue OG and all that crap, and that we're smoking poison. I don't know. I don't know if any of you guys have any more insight on that.
I agree with you.
The ash that falls, what's falling, if it's ash onto the plant itself, is typically just again, very, very light mineral content and very, very little, in terms of toxicity. The toxicity, and what we were, referring to before, is the way that a city fire would smell, as opposed to, say, like a country fire, where in the country you might just be burning brush in a culvert or something like that. We're in a city, there's probably going to be like a lot of trash. The bad part of smoke, the thing that can contaminate cannabis would be what's in the soot. And what's in the soot, there's a class of compounds called polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. And these are like some of the most toxic hydrocarbons known to man. But ironically, this is part of the barbecued flavor that people love. Like if you like barbecued brisket or smoked brisket, or if you like, not to talk about the meat diet again, markets, but if you like charcoal grilled food, those black stripes on your steak and everything like that, where it actually caramelizes, a lot of that degradation, sugar degradation and whatnot, pyrolysis, ends up with these polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, which are really toxic. And that's why you could probably go to a Burger King, go scrape those black lines off the hamburger, send it to a lab, go show that there's polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons in there, and shut down Burger King because they're selling toxic hamburgers. But that's part of the grilled taste that humans love so much. So,
Yeah,
again,
but Mark, with cannabis, that's not part of the taste and smell that we love. If you could taste it and smell it, I wouldn't smoke it.
No. Yeah, I'm just talking about like the elements of fire mixing with cannabis and where.
No, I agree. You remember, I love a good burger or a good steak, and I like them grilled. So I know exactly what you're talking about, and c'est la vie. But with cannabis, I got a choice, and if I can smell it or taste it, meaning the fires, I don't want that cannabis product.
Yeah, I mean, I got to agree. If it smells like smoke, I mean, nobody's going to want it. I'm talking the stuff that comes out and doesn't smell like smoke,
So like when we were talking about this on Hash Church a couple of years ago when fires were happening in California, I thought what I remember, and the nice thing about Hash Church, we can go back and watch them now and go listen to that, is I think there were a couple episodes where, oh my God, there's all these fires, there's going to be all this smoky weed. And then a couple episodes later where, there's a bunch of smoky weed out on the market, to a couple episodes later to where, hey, it makes really good fire oil, to where, again, if you're making distillate, you're going to purify any smokiness out of the distillate. I'm not saying that all that material was destined for distillate. And certainly, I think the way that the economics of most grows, would be like, you want to sell your premium flower, your best flower, at a different rate than you want to sell, say, like your bulk biomass, which is just going for distillate or just oil formation. For Rick Simpson type oils, or things again where maybe flavor really doesn't matter, but those, cannabinoids are still going to be in there. In some crudes, there's almost like a smoky flavor, right, Wade? I mean, I've tasted some crudes that almost have like, I wouldn't say a smoky essence to it, but maybe like a somewhat of like a burnt essence to it, where maybe in the way that they're recovering their solvent from their extraction, actually kind of like put some kind of like burnt flavor into the oil itself. It's still effective, and I still think you could make capsules out of it, and cancer patients could still use that oil. So just to answer your question, I mean, I don't know that, again, the burnt, all the premonition that, any weed that's grown in a fire-ridden zone is just written off as not being good or as valuable as it would be otherwise.
I think the fire has to be like within a mile of your property and dumping fucking ash on your weed. Like in that case, I mean, that's going to be tough to get that off. But when it has a chance to get somewhat cleansed in the atmosphere, I'm sure there's some molecular change that's happening in the atmosphere, even, when it's, but if you're next to a crowning fire, I mean, my goodness, what can you expect? But I think when it has a chance to fill up the atmosphere and the odd ash is falling, which is probably still the majority of people, although this is a unique year, we'll see what happens. But I think you're right to say that it's definitely black. A lot of it's good.
Soot is usually black. Soot would have like soot. Think of soot is kind of like the component that is left on the inside of your chimney. That's why you have to get your chimney clean, because when soot builds up there, essentially it could basically just be, flammable later on. But
it's oily.
Exactly. It's oily. It's kind of like
Creosote.
It's soot, creosote, right? So ash is different. Like ash, again, if you were to do
it's absorbable.
Yeah, exactly.
In a different way.
Exactly. I don't think ash is as much of an issue as if your plants are kind of in an area where they're getting fumigated with the sooty flames and effluent of a fire. Does that make sense, right?
And Mark, would it be like spraying geranium oil and then letting that kind of happen, naturally and break down naturally, and then it would just the smell goes away and it breaks down over time? And I would imagine similar things are happening with light ash. I've had no reports from anyone that I'm close with that they've had any smoky.
Well, I mean,
terps.
leaf microbes are still eating things that land on the leaf. If you have an opportunity, like those plants are still growing, and if the fire went away, then I believe, then the plant, the stomata and everything, every minute of every day is consuming what's on the leaf. So the plant does have the ability to consume a lot of it.
And we do know that during fire and when there's a lot of ash, that the cyanobacteria on the surface of the leaf, exponentially doubles, triples. It starts to grow because there is so much dust for it to consume. So I do think that there is some type of a homeostasis balance that happens
and let's
with
say
outdoor flower. Also, one thing that I wanted to say that's super easy for people to understand when we were talking about city fire and forest fire is that the smoke coming off of city fire is carbon monoxide. The smoke coming off of a forest fire is carbon dioxide. Big difference. So that's sort of.
Well, they're both. They're both there.
I got
both.
another one.
Yeah,
They're both
but
there.
more.
They're both there. Who's telling you that? Who said that to you?
I've heard that. Is that not true? That there's more carbon monoxide in city air?
Combustion makes both CO2 and CO. I think, there's no rational basis for that chemistry wise. So combustion.
You, Mark.
What about
That's good to know.
atmospheric carbon coming?
Yeah. So there's in the air, there wouldn't be like some type of, city toxicity in the smoke.
Yes, there is from plastic and things like
right.
that.
That's what we're
right.
That's kind of what we're saying.
Right.
Like if my laptop here were to fall into a fire and start burning, most of this plastic is a thermoplastic called, it's vinyl, which is polyvinyl chloride. So when polyvinyl chloride or when styrene, all the conventional plastics, multiple plastics that we use, when those things burn, they give off, basically, they thermally degrade and give off very noxious soots and particulates that you don't want to be breathing in. That's absolutely true. No question about it. I don't think it's down to the CO2 mixture. It's just down on what you're burning. A lot of that stuff, again, especially the polymers, what happens is as they burn, the neighboring polymer next to it. So if this part of the plastic is burning, this part of the plastic is melting and vaporizing. That's why when you throw plastic into like a campfire, you start to see little kind of like floaties all over the place and everything. So,
will those toxins join together with carbon pieces and chain off?
You know what they're going to do, though? They're just going to end up in the upper atmosphere as just, volatiles that you don't want to be burning, and you don't. Certainly, I saw people throwing trash into a fire and then cooking marshmallows on there. It's like, oh my God, people just, part of it is having, again, this cradle to grave recognition that all the packaging material and everything that we throw away into the trash, a lot of it does get burned, and a lot of that stuff does have bad effects in the environment. So, yeah.
Since we have a chemist in here, here's another thing I've been talking about that you can probably clarify more.
Where? There's a chemist? Where is there? Is there a chemist?
I was horrible. I was horrible at chemistry. So, like, horrible at chemistry. The other thing that people have been talking about up here, on and on and on and on, is water plus ash equals lye. And what's that going to do to plants? What's that going to do to soil? I've gotten into a couple conversations. Wendy from Sonobis, I'm sure you guys know Wendy Dragonfly, and she's kind of the one that brought this up, and she shut the comments down on her post about it because I think she knew it was going to create hubbub. First of all, what sort of concentration of ash needs to land on the soil for it to cause an issue? And at this point in the season, my thing was I'm not even concerned because my plants are big enough at this point. There ain't a damn bit of ash hitting the soil underneath them. I'm sure there is, obviously. But
so it's all as you recognize, it's all concentration. It's all a matter of how much of that stuff is there. And there's so little there that it's never going to be able to balance what acid rain has done, right? So acid rain has basically moved the pH needle on what comes down from the sky almost by a whole pH unit in the last 30 years, right? So, I mean, yeah, bring on the lye, right? There's a whole lot of acid rain to neutralize.
That was exactly the argument, is it was going to change the pH in your soil and that you need to watch out for that. And
probably, also, I mean, in a local sense, hold on, Sam, let me just add this. So if you take a bunch of ash and you add it into your grow, on a local sense, you're going to see a swing of pH. No question about it. So lye, again, some of the components in there are like sodium and lithium, and when they get wet, combined with water, they make hydroxides, which is going to basically increase the pH and give you a more basic pH. No question about it, just like lye would. But, again, everything's all in, the stuff's floating down from the sky, for Christ's sakes. It's not like people are dumping pounds of this shit on your grow, right?
That's exactly what I thought. Now,
it's not Mount St. Helens. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, yeah, I mean, Mount St. Helens is, something like that is going to, it was great. There was a Grateful Dead show going on in Eugene, I think, when Mount St.
I think it was Portland.
Portland.
I think it was Portland.
It was like Meadows, I think.
Yeah, and they were Fire on the Mountain.
They played Fire on the Mountain, and there was a Fire on the Mountain. Yeah, I mean, that was, wow. I mean, I guess in and around, and in fact, a lot of what we know about how volcanoes and replenish the ecosystem has been some of the publication that's come from the science that's studied Mount St. Helens and looked at like the neighboring areas and how quick it was, terrified back into, organic existence.
That's what I was going to say, Mark, was that at first on a volcano slope, nothing will grow for the first couple of years. Mm-hmm. But after that, it grows better than the surrounding farmland.
It does, yeah. Yeah, there's a whole zoo of microbes that start inhabiting that. And once the microbes start, I mean, Josh and Kelly will agree that it creates basically the chemistry of soil inside what was just an inorganic, glassy, rocky substrate, completely void of life. It takes that thing and just turns it into, just a sponge and a zoo of life. So it's so fucking cool. Mother Nature's a pretty good chemist.
I've seen excellent cannabis from volcanic soils like in Hawaii and other places. I know it works.
I wanted to circle back to something that was being offered about ash that settles on plants. Over the last couple of years with the fires in California, I've asked some of the growers who had crops out when the ash was going on or when they were threatened by fire. And the folks who took their crop down while ash was still falling and they were concerned their crop was going to burn or whatnot, reported more problems with their finished product versus those who left their plants in the ground, allowed them to continue their life process, and harvested after they'd had a chance to deal with the ash, was something that you were saying. that I thought I was trying to understand how that would work, but that makes a lot of sense. I wondered what else folks
What were
had to
the
say about
problems
it.
that they had?
It's like
Wade?
the
I'm just curious.
phytoremediation of the plant.
What kind of problems did they have with the material that they took down?
Oh, it was taste and cure. The cure, just didn't work out. The flower didn't taste nice. It had it burned poorly. This was over near Santa Rosa when the urban area of Santa Rosa burned a couple of years ago. Some of the farmers in that area are who I was talking to, and they were trying to save their crop, got it down and into a drying facility away from the fire, but were real disappointed with the results. Whereas some other farmers, again, not urban, so there's a variable that may not be relevant, or it may be, but these were more rural farmers who let their stuff finish after the smoke had cleared, more or less. There was not the ash fall and whatnot. And they did with blowers and whatnot, and they felt like they got a really good harvest that year. So,
is there ash in the hash?
So it turns out leaf blowers are good for blowing tear gas away from you. They're also really good at blowing ash off your weed. So, wow, leaf blowers are turning out important this year. 2020 is like the year of the leaf blower.
Is there ash in the hash? I can tell you firsthand, if there's not too much ash on the starting material, it can pretty much be washed out and tested clean.
Yeah,
that's cool.
For sure. Yeah. And I think that there is a phytoremediation that happens. And also I would think just, that when you're curing, it is such a microbial fermentation process that's happening. If your microbiology has changed dramatically, as like it would after a fire and you had a tremendous amount of ash, then you're going to have a different microbial colony. So you're going to get a different type of cure. Mm-hmm. So I loved it what you said, Wade. I think people should just hold off, let Mother Nature take care of it, especially those who are, working with deep soil and microbiology and have a lot of, regenerative practices around them. I think their flower is absolutely going to be just fine.
There's a form.
And also, and anybody who's listening out there, just because we're talking about the smoke and the ash damage, of course, there's going to be amazing, beautiful, small farm flower coming out of this year. Please, just because you're hearing about this doesn't mean don't go out and try it. I've already seen some flower that was even just recently cut. It's beautiful. It smells amazing. People are having a lot of successes now. So,
well, if the ash washes off into the hash water, theoretically, again, to go back to this theory of lye, theoretically the pH of the water should increase, because now you're dissolving all those minerals, which are bases, and they basically make an increase in pH. So it would be interesting to see is in your washings of ash hash, do you actually see a higher pH of the water?
I'll grab the pH pen and let you know.
Do it. And I think that would be good water to sink into a compost pile or into the aisles of your garden to kind of sink that ash hash water.
Tell Wooksauce if he works with anybody on the legal spot to do the same thing. And that's kind of what I was getting at with the ash thing, is where is that concentration point where you're really going to see that? I mean, how much has to say a 32-gallon wash with 4,000 grams of material in there? What concentration of that needs to be ash to actually change the pH of the water?
Not much, actually. Not much. I mean, I think what you would see is you'd see a change. So if you're washing, like, I don't know, how much are you washing at a time? Like 5 or 10 pounds?
About 4,000 wet grams a can. So call it 2 pounds.
Yeah, 2 pounds. Yeah, you should see a little bit of change in the pH, especially if it's got a lot of ash in there. Yeah.
You think it's that much? 2 pounds from just four? Yeah, I guess, about 2 pounds. Sorry.
We call it 2,225 gram conversion, which I've heard somebody say that the BCC uses 2450, but then Flynn Wooksauce laughed. He's like, the BCC doesn't have any any parameter on what's fresh frozen because you pay by wet weight, so they don't want to do
of course.
The farm, that's just California 2,225. That's what they've used forever. How accurate is that? I really don't know. We just did a huge harvest at a friend's farm, and one of his guys pulled some of the bags and dried it. And according to his numbers, it's 2,000 is far less than a pound. So
I mean,
it's a game we have to play with farmers too. Of the like, you know, you equate 2,225 wet grams to a pound, but that's untrimmed and that's actually not equal. So it's more like 2/3 of a pound. So in their head, it's hard for them to wrap around freezing weed. You know.
The water weight and accounting for that.
It would be interesting to see again. Is there a change in pH, and do the natural components of what's else is in the hash water somehow buffer that change in pH? So no matter how much ash is in there, you won't really see a swing of pH. Well, one of the experiments you could run is you can take your water after you've done your hashing and add ash to it and see if you could change the pH. See if the natural components of what you're extracting out of the plant is capable of basically masking the increase in pH that you would see if there was ash in there. And again, the way you do that is you spike it with ash to see if you actually see, the increase in pH.
I'm just gonna, take a wild guess here, but with the amount of ash I'm seeing on that size run, I would expect maybe, like a gram or two of it to be ash, out of the entire weight of the whole thing.
Yeah, and that, so if you just think about the stoichiometry of how much you would need to add to swing the pH a little bit, you're going to see a difference in pH.
All right, I'm going to check it out.
I can almost guarantee it. Yeah. Cool. You can report it back here on Hash Church.
I'm all about figuring those things out because I can't tell you how many times people ask me all these crazy questions of what can be washed, what can't be washed, what should I bother with? And, I will sit here and admit that we've washed some pretty crazy stuff so that we could run it through testing or see for ourselves exactly what happens in the end.
If people only realize their questions are literally so they don't have to see what happens, it's such an insane thing. It's like, I don't want to make any mistakes because mistakes lead to innovation. And we can't have that. Like I need to just ask everyone just tell me all your mistakes that you made so I don't make those same. Go out and make those very same mistakes and make a bunch of new ones and come back and tell us all about the innovation it led to. Don't ask me questions that keep you from that journey. I get a lot of those questions, man. I'm just like, okay, how do I answer this?
I feel like that's one thing I've always, no matter what anybody tells me, I have to find out for my own. So I just stopped asking years ago and throw it through and see what we get,
Yeah, if you're not making mistakes in your garden or figuring things out and dealing with different issues, you're never going to learn. It's one thing. I've always pushed my plants to their limits, and I leave plants in 1-gallon pots for 6 months just to see what I can do to them, just so I can learn from it. So you can understand it. Like,
if you haven't botched a run, you haven't done it right.
Right. I mean, I've had every problem known to a gardener. I think I've had scales. I don't know if anybody's ever had scales, and sure enough got them. But learning how to deal with all those problems are a great way, and that's all there's ever been is just research and understanding and seeing what works. And everybody's still fighting powdery mildew. How do I deal with it? It's hard to do.
You learn a whole lot more from an experiment that doesn't work than from an experiment that does work. If you do an experiment that works, why'd you do the experiment to begin with, right? It wasn't much of an experiment if you knew if it was going to work. Research is what you do when you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You just got to try some shit.
That is the truth.
I like the way you put that. Listen, we got 7 more minutes for today's episode. It's been great having everyone on here. I just wanted to let everyone know I'm going to go and spend the rest of the day with my little son who's anxiously waiting on the other side of the door there. And so, let's finish it off. 7 minutes left. If you guys want to say anything about HOratio, feel free to now. This might be a good time to mention a little something, because this is the end of the episode. Go ahead, anyone.
Mark, HOratio is the reason why I became on the panel at Hash Church. So, you guys wouldn't know who I am, and I wouldn't know any of you people. And so I have to be grateful for his friendship and for, he reached out to me. I never reached out to him. He reached out to me. And then I think he was like on his phone with me a couple times while he was on Hash Church, and he'd like ask me a question and then he'd go back to Hash. So and then it just became natural. Hey, Mark, why don't you come on? And so I think, Mark, did he introduce me to you? Right?
He did. 100%. Yep.
So I have to be grateful for how Hash Church has enriched my life with all of your friendship. And, I see the comments in the chat. Everyone seems to like when I pipe in with knowledge, and it's just my pleasure of my life to be here to share that knowledge with y'all and to be everyone's friend on this panel. You guys mean a lot to me, kind of like my internet family. So I have to be grateful for HOratio for introducing me to you, Marcus, and for your continued, friendship, and Johnny's continued friendship, and Sam and everybody. And so I think what we find in life is it's not like what you know, and it's not necessarily who you know, but it's like who you get to know and who you bring into your circle, and your the influence that you have amongst your friends and the collective knowledge that you're able to share. The old saying, a rising tide rises all boats. And so I think that's what Hash Church does, is it rises all boats. And so for my contribution here, I'm directly thankful to HOratio for inviting me and bringing me in, man.
Yeah, 100%. I give thanks to Johnny B for introducing me to HOratio, and give thanks to HOratio for introducing me to you. And just like I said, passing that, spark on down the line and letting everyone get inspired. He definitely won't be forgotten. His words are on Hash Church forever. And anyone that wants to go and look those up, I'm sure eventually someone will put a cool list together that has all of the episodes that HOratio was ever on. So yeah, props to HOratio. Anyone else want to mention anything?
Go ahead, Johnny.
Oh, no, you go ahead, Jim, please.
When I came in, I think I came in on episode 24, and HOratio was, a regular, and I miss learning from him. I love the way he challenged thought. I love the way that he challenged ideas, and his compassion more than anything. He was always willing to share and always willing to lend a hand. I was always helping someone out, and that's beautiful, and that's a great spirit to have, and one that I hope to leave in my time. And I'm sorry he's gone, but I'm thankful to have known him and to have been a part of him, and to be a part of us.
Johnny B.
Wow. Yeah, no. I was just talking with Marty and his wife and daughter in between the Hash Church, and she was watching this morning. I want to say thank you to everybody here and the kind words, and just for all the support and the GoFundMes. And they were really just, really the whole family was just so overwhelmed with all the comments from everybody from the community. So they just want to say thank you. And of course, HOratio was a good friend. He came to my house quite a bit. Ah, shit. He helped me out a lot. Like, more than anybody. He made creams for my neck. He made certain things for my pain. He really just went an extra way to help people. Like Mike, he created stuff from my freezer from the Leamy when he first started doing those extractions. And he was always just wanting to help that next person. And like he always said, he was doing it for his family. And I was to be able to lab and some passing and we're strong and everything that he's done, and just all you guys out there, just thanks. I was really looking forward to seeing more of his research, and I know some people out there know a lot of that, Mark, and some other people, and I've seen and worked with HOratio quite a bit, so there's some stuff that all the barrels are leaning there and just different things of what he was doing at the end. He took a break and really focused on jewelry, and wait till you see the jewelry line come on, guys. See, his whole basement was full of all jewelry making equipment, and he did some techs that, of course, HOratio would do that no one else was done. And to look forward for Marnie to releasing that. So it'll be a type of jewelries and stuff like that that actually put together at the end of the last year. And that's why HOratio stopped talking with everybody, because he went deep into his passion was into doing his art and doing all these molds. And so you'll see some pictures of that. I'll share it today on Instagram when it's over and stuff like that. I'm going to head over there now and just kind of do some helping out there and stuff. But the family's really grateful. And they're really, the daughter's just touched to see how much her father has touched so many people and helped so many people. So keep those comments coming. They're reading them every day. They're saying thank you so much for the support and everything that everybody's helped out for the family. So, and you know what? Thanks, HOratio, for all you've done. And I know his spirit runs strong. And actually got the freeze dryer, and I remember when he brought this over the border and how he got that. So he'll always be here beside me. But thanks, guys.
Thanks, Johnny B, for the touching words. I know that the family appreciates that for sure, as do we. Did anyone else want to mention any words before we shut her down and send a rest in peace to HOratio?
I didn't know the guy personally, but obviously been following him since day one on Hash Church. But one thing I just want to share what I thought was cool about HOratio, not as somebody who didn't know him, is you could tell that guy, anything he got into, he fully geeked out on, went way for the fence, swung way for the fences, all the way out there, every detail like that. And that, to me, that's cool, because that's kind of the way I am when I get into something. It's just full geek mode, so it inspires me a little bit.
No, that's absolutely true. You know, and it teaches all of us that you don't let your own you don't limit yourself on your own limitations. You set stretch goals, and you hit nail on the head. He knew a lot more than he actually really understood, if you know what I mean. I mean, he knew things instinctively in the lab, and when he would call me and we would talk, he would say things and I'm like, oh yeah, there's a reason why that happens, and I kind of explain it to him. But I think it teaches us all the lesson that we should set our goals high, and even if we don't hit that goal, even if we fall just short of that goal, we'll go a lot farther than we probably would have if we never set that goal to begin with. So I think it's a good model to live your life.
Totally.
And to have the heart space. And to have the heart space while you do it. So, a person like HOratio taught us how to dive deep and to go beyond the realms, and then how to have a quality with it, and then to how to have the heart space. And that's what I really appreciate about, him and this community and this moment right now, is that, this is it's more than just a business for us. It's a connection, and it's really important to us. And these are the things that keep us up every day and waking up to go on. So we really love and appreciate you all. Big respect to HOratio, Johnny B, everyone here. Thank you on this journey. It's one more day in our evolution. We just appreciate you being out there, calling us if you need anything ever. We'll call on you. Thanks to everyone out in chat. and Chatland, you're a part of this too. So we're on the screen right now, but you're all a part of it. We're all a part of it. Let's go make the world a better place.
Well said.
Yeah. Well said.
Yeah, Horatio, Mark, Horatio really brought out the creative in science, and that's what I really gravitated towards. And that's something that I really respect in terms of the work that he contributed to everyone and everyone here. And I remember, Marcus, you talking about the processes and everything that he was going in on. And, to have a mind like that, to your point, Mark, is really special. So that's a testament to being far more interested in just processes. It's understanding the plant in a really deep way.
Absolutely.
I
Go ahead, Sam.
I never met Horatio in person, just on the internet on your show a zillion times. But what I can say is he had a deep, deep love for terpenes. And because of that, I had a lot of respect for him. And 40 years is not enough, but what it is what it is. Yeah.
All right, everyone. Well, thanks for coming out. I really appreciate it. We'll finish it off with a rest in peace to you, Sir Horatio. You were gone, but you will certainly not be forgotten. So thanks for the time you spent with us here at Hash Church, and thank all of you for all the time you guys have spent here at Hash Church, both the panelists and all the people watching. I think we have about 412 people in the chat room right now. So we'll try and do this again real soon. Shout out to everyone on the West Coast who's dealing with these fires. We'll try and get some help out. I know the community is opened arms. Let's hope that the rains come soon, that these fires go down and more people's homes are saved rather than lost. And thanks everybody.
Vote.
Peace out.
Vote.
Yes.
Love you all.
Say hi to Tanner.
Sending lots of love to everybody. Hang in there. We can
Thanks,
get
Marcus.
this together.
I already voted. I'm going to throw the bum out.
Darren would say, "Bong rip lovers."
Awesome, everybody.
Peace, everyone.
Peace out.